motion to approve the agenda? Councillor Humphreys? Councillor Kim? Comments or questions? Seeing none. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Any declarations of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. No delegations. Items for consideration. First one on our list is the Strategic Asset Management Policy. Binder tab 3. Someone like to move to receive for information? Councillor Kim? Councillor Gardner? Comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Number 2, Asset Management Plan. Someone like to move to receive for information? Councillor Kim, Councillor Gilliland. Comments or questions on this one? Seeing none. All those in favor? You have a comment? Councillor Humphreys?
To go like I just want to say thank you to the town. This is a staff. It was a huge effort. It's the first time we've done it, and it was a huge amount of reading, lots of information. Know that we're mandated to do it, but it's just a great job done, and I just appreciate it. Like I just want to say to the staff, thank you very much for it.
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. Call the vote. Oh, Councillor Gallo, just under the wire.
Sorry,
Sorry.
I was on the wrong one. I noticed throughout the document and others the reference to a long-term analysis in terms of amortization versus replacement costs, and I'm just hoping someone could just go through that a little bit in terms of managing our capital commitments and our cash flow.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Throughout the document, yes, there's a lot of discussion about the longer-term analysis that is required, and there's a few things that would be involved in creating that analysis. So as we know, amortization does not reflect replacement costs. Cost to replace assets is always more. But part of that cost on when we replace and how we replace is also factored by service levels, and we need to have that discussion and do more of that analysis in the future to fully determine what our reserve requirements are going to be over the long term by looking at the assets over their full and complete life.
Thank you. Councillor?
Thank you. Also, could you speak to, I guess, capital projects that have been approved, specifically on page, I don't know if there's a page on here, but approved capital projects funded upon, and there's a gap between the conditionally approved, and the actual spent. And I'm wondering if, because there's about 106 million that has been approved, are those projects going forward and they're just in the background? Is there a cash issue in terms of moving those projects forward? It seems like a big number to me.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So there is not a cash issue. So there is money in the reserves and cash on hand to pay for those projects. What it is it's a factor of the way we approve projects currently. So the way we're approving projects is we approve the full value of the project entirely. And then even though some projects take multiple years to actually implement. So that's why it's showing this amount for projects that are currently approved, but a significant portion is not yet spent because it could relate to projects that are going to take more than 1 year to actually implement.
Councillor?
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. When are we going to take that more extensive review with respect to,
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we are planning on doing a lot of continuous improvement initiatives with the capital budget, starting with the 2021 budget. So we're going to start looking at the overall cash flow and bringing the previously approved projects together with the ones that we're seeking approval for to have a more complete picture of the 10-year plan. There is a lot of analysis that needs to be done, and it is going to take time, especially when we start getting into the asset management analysis.
Thank you. Councillor, you okay? That's it?
Yes, that's it.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions while Councillor Thompson cleans up his desk? Councillor Kim.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Downey, we started our asset management plan back in like 2014, and as mentioned earlier, we were ahead of the curve compared to other municipalities, and that's great. And as I was looking at the R&R schedule with the roads and infrastructure repairs, and I was looking back at the asset management plan on the AECOM study done in 2010, as they did a deeper dive in the conditions of our roads. That was 9 years ago. Is there another? Can we anticipate that there would be another AECOM study down the road with regards to the conditions of our arteries?
Is that Mr. Downey saying to you or is it going to be Anka? Whoever.
You, Mr. Mayor, over to Anka.
Over to Anka? Anka? It's on.
It's okay. Just to understand your question, it's if we have another analysis regarding road system.
Yeah.
And the programs, and so are we scheduled for another analysis through AECOM in the future?
Anka.
We implemented a system that is another consultant, Stantec. We implemented it in 2015. It's the same system the York region has. And every 3 to 5 years, we go out and assess the roads. We completed the last assessment at the end of June this year.
Councillor?
But it's the road matrix that it's the developer, it's Stantec Consulting.
And so I'm glad that it was, more recently rebooted.
System, we had another system that was obsolete, and we moved to implement the same system that York region has.
Thank you. Not seeing any other comments. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Number 3, review of 2019 10-year capital investment plan, binder tab 5. Would someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Humphreys, second. Councillor Kim, comments or questions on this item? Seeing one. Councillor Kim.
Thank you. No, it's just more of an affirming and comment to staff, because I think when it comes to budget time, I don't necessarily like to look at the nitty-gritty in terms of whether a boiler replacement should cost $150,000 or $70,000. That's beyond my capabilities. And so what I like to look at is the 10-year chart. I know in the previous regime, I've been asking for how cash is going to capital, how it impacts our reserves, and how it's allocated. And I think you guys did a great job, and I think when I look at page 41, that's pretty well, which is the reserve forecast and cash flow, total tax-based R&R reserve. It certainly tells us that we're borrowing from other parts of the reserves, but then we're right-sized again after 10 years, and everything's internal. We have the funds to pay for everything, and so that really explained a lot for me, and so I don't have as many questions in terms of individual items, and thank finance staff for doing a great job at letting us know the macro picture, because if the macro picture is off, then there's something wrong internally. So I'm glad to see that on a macro level we're healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Councillor Gardner.
Conversation on the phone yesterday. And it's about the implication of borrowing from ourselves and then not having that money being able to earn interest. So maybe, Jason, you could just give to all of council how you see that.
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the conversation that Wendy and I had on the telephone yesterday related to the borrowing from other reserves. So in an instance where one reserve was borrowing from another, essentially the reserve would be overdrawn by a certain value. Let's say we were short $100,000 in one reserve. In instances of that nature, we would actually bill that reserve interest, which essentially would represent the money it's borrowing from the reserves that have a positive balance. So the lost interest from not investing, through having that money go into other reserves and not being invested, is being recovered from the reserve that is being billed the interest, if that makes sense.
I don't quite follow that. We were saying that it's like taking a line of credit. So if I personally take a line of credit, then I've got to pay that interest. So how are we building that back into the reserve?
Mr. Gardner?
Well, through charging like overdraft. So when you go borrow money through an overdraft, the bank charges you interest. So we essentially charge that reserve interest for borrowing from the other reserves. So that recovers, once the money comes in, that recovers that investment income. That all being said, there's another opportunity cost that we're avoiding through borrowing internally, and that's one from external debt. And certainly external debt, if we were to venture this or obtain this money externally, we'd be paying a lot more in interest costs. So generally speaking, the external debt cost would be probably end up being a little bit potentially higher than that lost.
Councillor?
Thank you. And looking at this budget, I was looking at items that we don't have to do that borrowing right at the moment. Maybe it could be put off by a year or two. So I'll address that in the individual items. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson?
You. Through you to Mr. Gardner or Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel. Perhaps better for Jason. Jason's been with us longer. Jason, how long have we been using that practice of interloaning funds between reserves?
Mr. Gardner?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we've been doing it for at least since I've been here, so it's about 7 years we've been doing it.
That's always been my understanding. That's been the common practice of how we've operated for many, many years with all of our projects. Thank you.
Yes, that's great. And just to add to that, if you don't mind, it is a best practice across the municipal sector to borrow internally.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
It's a best practice across the municipal sector to manage stuff internally.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner, second time.
I understand that it's a best practice and that we've done it for a long time, but to me there are disadvantages, and anything we can do to not do that is prudent. And I think we're always looking at, or hopefully we're always looking at this as if it's our money and what we would do with it.
Councillor Kim?
Thank you. I forgot to mention, through you, Mr. Mayor, to either finance staff. I know that over the years, many residents have complained about water and wastewater invoices. And so when I look at the long-term forecast for the rate-based reserves, it shows that the revenues are flat it peaks at 17 or 1.7 mil, and then it comes down to 1.5, and it stays there, while the fund requests, which is our bills, come off significantly in a couple of years, and so we actually get a significant surplus. So just so that residents know and we know for comfort, it seems that we're in really good shape, and that there is some relief in the horizon in terms of our water bills, because it seems like after a decade of double-digit increases. It seems like we have some good finances here. Can you collaborate that, please?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in the water reserves in particular, we're talking about infrastructure, which is extremely expensive to replace, but also has a very long life cycle. So part of what's happening is not only on the town's share of the water bill, but also on the regional water bill, is there's contributions to put aside to those reserves to ensure that when that infrastructure does need to be replaced, that the money is there and we're not overburdening our future generations. So currently, when we look at the average lifespan of water assets, they're normally in the range of about 70 to 80 years. And on average, our underground infrastructure is about 30 years old. So we are still a ways off before we get to the point where we're going to have to start replacing this infrastructure. But when we do, it will be very, very expensive to do.
Thank you. Councillor?
So I think I can interpret that as meaning that now we're increasing our reserves in water, and so that we shouldn't have these double-digit increases anymore. So that's good news. When I looked at that long-term forecast, at least I have something to tell residents when they complain every year. Now, 10 years of exorbitant hikes in our waters. Now we wouldn't necessarily. Okay, I guess I spoke too soon. Yes.
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
So part of the increase that's in our water bill is the region has had about 6 years of 9% increase on their cost for water. And that is that significant increase is related to their rate sustainability and making sure that they have the money in place to be able to replace their underground infrastructure as well. That is coming to an end. I think the last 9% is in 2020. And then their rate will drop down because they will have got enough going forward in their reserves to be able to meet their needs over the long term.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. My interpretation is what you exactly said, and so I feel really good about that. My last question is on the DC long-term reserve balance. So it looks like there's no DC revenues from 2026 to 2028, and then it comes back, 820 in 2029. So is it because we just don't have a line of sight in terms that far ahead in terms of what our DC revenues would be? Or do we know for sure that there's going to be no DC revenues coming in during those years?
Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel? Oh, Mr. Gardner?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. I think you might be misreading the chart. The green bar is the revenue coming in, and the blue bar is the money going out, the requirements. So you're correct that we haven't identified any requirements for the last 5 years. That the blue bar's reserve draws are the requirements. So the latter years, you don't see a whole lot of requirements identified here. You're correct. I think that predominantly relates to getting a complete handle on those future years and what growth requirements are going to be, partially. I think the other thing that's probably not in here is a lot of our growth infrastructure is actually put in place by developers on our behalf, and we reimburse them through a DC credit.
Yeah.
So I think that's partly why you're not seeing very many requirements that are identified here. So this will probably become more clear as we move forward with our next 10-year plan.
Okay.
Councillor?
Yeah. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Not seeing any other comments or questions. Call a vote on this one. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. On to number 4, binder tab 6. So council, before I ask someone to move the recommendation, I'm going to ask if there are any items that you would like pulled. So I'll start to my right. Councilor Gilliland?
Mayor, do you want me to go like 6 dash something or
Six dash something, if you could,
Okay,
please.
so 6-8 and 6-10, they're just together. I'm gonna address those together.
Okay.
6-82. And I'm going to address together 6-89 and 6-93.
Anything else?
And items in the corporate services, 8-16 through 8-19.
We're not at the eights yet. Just sixes.
Just 6? Okay, that's it.
Just binder tab 6.
Oh, sorry.
Councillor Humphreys? Nothing? Councillor Kim?
6-6, just the general comments on the roads.
Mm-hmm.
And 6-40.
6-40?
Yes.
Thank you. That's it? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. 614.
Yep.
That's already pulled. 618.
Yep.
623.
Okay.
624. Down to then 629. 646 for a question, and 656.
656. Okay. That's it?
Was 665 pulled?
Nope. 665?
Thank you.
Okay. That's it? Okay. Councillor Thompson?
6114.
6 which? Sorry?
6-114. 114.
114? Okay.
114.
Yep. 114.
And then 6103 and 6107.
Okay. That's it?
Yep.
Councillor Gallo?
697.
Okay. That's it. Thank you. So, council, I have pulled 6-6, 6-8, 6-10, 6-14, 6-18, 6-23, 6-24, 6-29, 6-40, 6-46, 6-56, 6-65, 6-82, 6-89, 6-93, 6-97, 6-103, 6-107, and 6-114. Mr. Clerk, got all of them? Okay. Is there anything else? If not, I'm going to... Oh, Councillor Gardner.
I have 671 and 672 as defer to next year.
So we'll pull that and you can defer that. 71 and 72?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Thompson?
612, just for comment.
612. Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, so could I get someone to move the recommendation and what we would, yeah, what's there approved as presented except for the items pulled for separate discussion and voting? Someone like to move that? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland, second. Mr. Clerk, are we going to vote on this and then move to the items, or just move to the items first? Move to the items. Okay, so we'll vote on this and then we'll move to the items that we've pulled. So I'll call the vote on this. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. So we will move to 6-6. Councillor Kim, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just the general comments on, there are a few items in terms of road maintenance, and I know we set the PQI at 65 in the past. And, I think from a general, format and the project benefits and impact to the organization, I think all the comments is the same. If the project was not approved, the average PQI of 65 for the town's road network essentially decline. And it'd just be nice to have more robust language in there, just so that we could have more to digest other than just an index number. I think something like, because a lot of this is, in a lot of the reports that we get in council, it's, quality of life, we have, this will, it rolls up to some kind of quality. And I just want a little bit more tangible description in terms of, if we don't do this at 65, this will happen. We're going to get, our tires are going to wear away this way or something like that. And I'd be curious to know, what if we did a PQI of 55, what would that look like? How would that change our financials? Because a lot of this, from a general perspective, it talks about the well-being of client, residents, financials, regulatory. And so I just want to know, in general, in these road descriptions, just a little bit more description so that we can make a more informed decision. I know in the asset management plan, I think it's great that we're looking for fair, and I think 55% of our roads are in the fair category, which is great, and that's 50 to 69, so we want to be in the high range. So I think maybe in the future, if we could kind of find out, what does a 55 road network look like, and how would that impact our finances and our tenure? So it's just a comment on that. I have no problems with the budgeting. As I said, I'm not going to get into nitty-gritty in terms of the pricing or whether it needs it or not. I trust staff believes that it's necessary because we established the 65, but I think in the future it'd be nice to kind of, for next budget, just a little bit more information in terms of, other than just we didn't meet our 65.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Councillor Kim. I was actually going to say thank you for making it a comment, because if it was a question, I was going to ask you, why didn't you ask ahead of
Yeah.
time? But thanks for saying it was a comment. I think staff will take those comments into consideration, and I think all of us share some of that, some of the points you made. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Along similar lines, however, I will remind those that sat on council last year that ANCA did bring a report in 2017 that did raise that question with regards to the service level and what it would look like, whether we lowered it to 60 or raised it to 70, those impacts. So perhaps I'd encourage staff to recirculate that report for this council. I certainly, would welcome another conversation around it. I know that part of my questions to staff was the current PQI index of the roads before us, and in particular, the Industrial Parkway, the rating for this road is 60.6. So to me, it's not that far off of 65. So that's part of my question is, does it really need to be done this year if it's so close? To me, I'm thinking if we're trying to maintain a service level of 65, I guess intuitively in my head, I'm thinking that we're looking at roads that are in much worse repair and bringing them up to standards than those that are close to the average. And so that was my common concern, that I guess to staff, does it really have to be done this year?
Anka?
Not, but it needs to be done in the next couple of years. So we have to maintain an average PQI index for town system at large of 65. We have to look at individual projects, and at the same time, the window of rehabilitation for a certain type of rehabilitation that is not considered heavy rehabilitation, it's very short. It's 2 to 3 years. If we don't do this year, we might need to do it next year or 2 years from now. And we try also to combine projects that are in the close proximity, like Industrial Parkway and Vandorf. So we deliver much easier, and contractors will deliver faster in time. So we have to look at a short window for a certain rehabilitation, and we have to combine certain projects. That is the reason sometimes we combine a road that has a current PQI of 60 or 59 with a road that has a PQI of 56 or 57, because they are in the same area. And we try to keep this window open and to act fast, because That's how our system works, and this is the philosophy of applying the right rehabilitation to the right road at the right time. If we miss the window, the road will need to go to depreciate, and we'll put more money into it. Pavements are very expensive, and once we let them depreciate, it's very difficult to catch up.
Perhaps that's the challenge, because I know when we had the conversation 2 years ago, I took it upon myself to look at other municipalities, and the numbers range. A municipality like London, their service standard is 55. Others, it's different. Some is 60, 65. Some is even 70. It's higher than us. And so, I guess it's understanding what's the right level of service, because in the long term, and I welcome Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel's comments about trying to expand our asset management plan beyond the 10 years to 25 and longer, so that we can take into account some of these components, because let's face it, it's very difficult for us as a municipality alone to replace all of our assets based on just the current property tax system. We need help from the government to do so. And so I think, one of the questions we're faced with in the long term is, how to get the best use of our assets over the lifespan, and making sure we're getting, I guess, as much as possible before then looking to repair and replace them. And so, I welcome the report coming back. I welcome having further conversations, further feedback from staff with regards to, is 65 the right number, especially when we look long term.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. With the overall index, we're trying to keep that at 65. Does that mean in roads less traveled, like maybe courts or residential areas, that we allow those roads to go much lower?
Inca.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we allow to go much lower if they are past a certain type of rehabilitation. How we look at the road, a road that is just rebuilt, it's PQI between 95 and 100. And we have to start with light rehabilitation techniques like crack sealing, and then we go into more intense rehabilitation, mill and overlay, full depth asphalt replacement, until we go and rebuild the road. If a road is past the certain window for a certain rehabilitation, we cannot put money into mill and overlay because it will be wasted money. The road will be full of potholes and settlements area in 2 years. So if it's past a certain window of rehabilitation, we think that it's better to let it depreciate further, and then we go with full depth reconstruction.
Thank you. Councillor?
So when we get calls from residents to say that their road is in really bad shape, what are we supposed to say to them? Maybe you don't have to answer that, but it's...
I would say that, that's from my understanding, their road might need more than just a resurfacing, so it's something that we need to look at differently, and it can't just be done immediately. That's kind of what I would suggest as an answer. Yeah.
What is the right return of investment, how our software works, and that we try we assess the roads in this summer, and we try to do certain type of rehabilitation on most of our roads. But if a road is past any light rehabilitation techniques, then we have to work with operations to keep the road going as much as possible. When the maintenance becomes very high, then we think full depth reconstruction, we rebuild the road.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim, I forgot to ask you at the beginning, what did you want to move on this? No, green or red? You pulled it. Green. Second. Councillor Humphreys. So no other comments or questions. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Next we have 6-8. Councillor Gilliland.
Through Mr. Mayor. I did reach out earlier and notice that both 6-8 and 6-10 included the budget for the sidewalk that as council we decided not to go forward with, and I've kind of wanted to...
Sorry, Councillor, I'll just ask you, are you...
I wanted to have the budget.
No, do you want to move green or red on this one?
On this one?
Yeah.
I definitely want to move it green, but
Thank you. So I'm just asking you to put it on the floor. So
Okay.
Second, before you finish that. Second? Councillor Gardner? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
All right. So I just wanted to have that portion of the budget removed from the estimated cost moving forward. I think I know that there is a cost estimate contingency of, I guess, 10%, if I am correct, of estimating a job. And I just feel if we remove that sidewalk portion, it can be allocated towards something else within the budget for now. But I'm happy moving it forward, but I'd like to see that number removed on both 6-8 and 6-10.
Well, thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just for council's information, when I asked Anka for the PQI index, it's 52.9 for Dare, Bailey, and Davidson, and Harriman is 36.1, just as a comparison to the last one. But I do think that's valuable information going forward, and perhaps for the next round of budget talks next year. The current PQI of the roads can be included as part of the project justification, because especially when they talk about maintaining the average of 65, for me, then I'm initially going to want to know where does it stand today. So. That's it, just that
Thank
comment.
you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner. Comment?
Thank you. I also want it to be a green, but we should have a new funding amount here without the sidewalks. To me, this report isn't up to date for us to actually pass it.
Anka?
I looked at the cost estimate for the sidewalk for both projects. It's less than 10% on a project that, for example, the first one on 6-8, we have a budget request of 4.7 million. The cost for the sidewalk, cost estimate for the sidewalk, it's $115,000. So we can reduce, and for the second one for 6-10, it's $100,000 on a budget request of 4.5 million. So we can have this budget request reduced by this amount.
Councillor Gardner?
Sometimes when we get to the end of this process, $215,000 it's an important amount. So I think that the report should reflect, the budget should reflect what we're actually going to approve.
I guess if we can update these at some point. Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
Just a general question as we're going through this. These types of projects, even if they're green lighted, they're coming back to us anyway with the final budget anyway, right? There'll be a report. I see nods and I see yes and I see no.
Not if it's approved in budget. Yes, final capital report would come to council, but not another report to like a council meeting separate. If you understand what I'm saying.
I understand what you're saying. I'm just questioning the second part of what you're saying. So once this is approved, even at that amount,
Unless something comes back, I guess unless a tender comes back that's above the budgeted amount, we wouldn't see it again. Ms. Wainwright Van Kessel?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, what we can do is when we come forward with the final approval report on October 22nd, we can adjust the amounts for these two projects through that report.
So that would be when the capital budget comes.
yeah, I'm less worried about that, the 100 or 200,000. I'm more that just with this amount of detail, I'm approving this amount of money, and I guess the comfort level with that was my impression that. And I guess I'm wrong that it would come back to council as a report, and we'd have a tender, and we'd approve the tender.
Through the capital budget, yes. Yeah, but not a separate report coming later on. He's saying that the project coming back separately. No, the project would not come back separately unless it comes back with a higher number than what we've budgeted for. Okay, we're good. Any other comments, questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 610. Councillor, did you want to move? Green. Second, Councillor Humphreys. I'm assuming there's no questions on this one since it's pretty much similar as the last one. We'll adjust that number for the final, when the final capital budget's, it's 100,000 less on this one. Yes. Any other comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 612. Councillor Thompson, can I get you to move something first? Would anyone like to move something? Councillor Humphreys, what would you like to move? Green, second. Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
And through you, just to get some clarification, when I asked about the PQI index, it's split depending on which part of the road you're talking about. One's 75, the other one's 63.6. I understand that this first stage is just for the design, and there are other elements incorporated into it. So I just want to confirm that what we are approving today is strictly to move forward with the design, and that next year we'll have a decision about whether or not we want to move forward or defer it out.
I'm seeing a nod yes from Anka. Anka?
Just for the design. Construction will probably, in the design, what we include in this design, it's the wildlife passage on Henderson. There is a pedestrian crossing, and because we'll need to hire an engineering consultant for the wildlife passage, it's our intent to have the drawings prepared for a mill and overlay. However, we will assess how we can deliver the mill and overlay once, because the PQI is high, and at the same time the region will move to build a sanitary sewer on Henderson, and we'll need to coordinate with the region. So the mill and overlay will be done after the region is finishing the sanitary sewer at Young and on Henderson.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson? Oh.
Thank you. And the way I read it, and the information you provided me, which was very helpful, but I see the resurfacing being associated with the sewer work, and that's fine. That's for east of McClellan. But then west of McClellan, it just says we're going to spend a portion of that $1.5 million to resurface a road that's in excellent condition to accommodate the wildlife crossing. And so, I'd like to get more details on that, because as much as we need it, this may not be the right time to spend that amount of money. So that's why I just wanted to clarify that today all we're approving is the design, and then a year from now we'll have a better insight into what's being done, and I can have a decision made by council about whether it's the appropriate time or not, or the project needs to be deferred.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. I'm going to throw a little curveball here as well. Can we look at, within the design, look at speed bumps within certain parts of Henderson?
Go on.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Just a comment, I did speak offline with Anka about this as well, and just with consideration about the aspects of design, and I just for a comment on the record, I wanted to include some sort of bike lane as a feeder street going through, and hopefully that will be part of the presentation as well.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 614. Councillor Gardner. Reconstruction of Poplar Crescent. Green. Move Green. Second. Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner. Comment?
My question is, because I have a feeling that in the older areas of town, we have a lot of situations that are just like this, where we have undersized water mains. What would happen if we didn't do this? Like, what is the effect on that area if we don't do this? And can we delay it?
Anka?
Once we rebuild the road and we go and replace the underground infrastructure, if the water main is not to the minimum size that it's being specified in our design criteria, and this is the case, we replace the water main. Also part of the road reconstruction, because we are not going to go there for at least 30 to 35 years. So to leave an undersized water main there, but if we have to postpone the road reconstruction, the water main is okay, will stay there. But once we rebuild the road, the water main is undersized based on the design criteria, and it's cast iron too.
And I'll just throw in, there was a water main break there about a year and a half ago. I showed up there, and even trying to turn it off, some of the valves were seizing because the infrastructure is pretty old. So I think it's something that's probably much needed in that area.
It was in the condo part of the development.
Yeah, it wasn't the condo part, but when we were trying, and I remember they were trying to turn the valves to shut off, everything was seized, and it was very difficult to shut it off, and it took some time to shut it off. So I'm just going to the fact that the infrastructure is needed to be upgraded, definitely. Councillor?
And I do know that. So I'm wondering, would we have the same situation? If we didn't do it, would we have the same situation that we had across the street? And, well, almost across the street. And does this have anything to do with the work that the region is going to be doing?
Anka?
Yes, it was driven by the work that the region has to do it, because the region is rehabilitating the sinkhole on Young Street, and they will lower the underground water level on Young Street, and they will put more flow of water into the storm system. The storm system is undersized for the new amount of water, so we have to replace the sewer, the storm sewer, and Poplar is it's also in bad shape, and we look at the whole infrastructure, water main, sanitary, and we decided that it's time to rebuild the road, given the fact that we'll need to dig up the road to replace the storm sewer. And also the outlet to the creek will have to be upgraded for the new sewer size, storm sewer size.
Councillor?
Said is undersized. The storm system is undersized, and you said something else is undersized?
Sewer. And the water main is not according to the standards. It's 150 millimeter instead of 200 millimeter, and we bring it up to the standard.
It says right there under the project description.
But the storm sewer project drives that too.
Thank you. Councillor?
Question is, and Ms. Wainwright Van Castle said it, when we do our underground infrastructure, we're hoping it's going to last for 80 years. So I'm guessing this is much newer than that, because the whole area is newer. So what is causing this?
How old is the area?
I'm not sure. I have to check and get back to you, but I assume that it was rebuilt, it was in late 60s.
That's quite a long time. Yeah.
So is it just the pace of development in that area that's caused this?
Think about the underground. It was sized to a certain drainage area at the time of subdivision construction, and now we have other requirements like putting more storm flow into that, so we need to upgrade it.
Mr. Seo, did you want?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, just to capture the whole, we wouldn't be recommending this work were it not for the fact that the region is going to be going in and we have to do the storm sewer, which is a function of the water issues that the region is dealing with. If it weren't for that, we might get 80 years out of it, because we might not go in and replace those pipes until they started breaking with a frequency that required us to fix them. But since we're doing so much work on the storm sewer, and since the lines are under the standard for today, we're suggesting that we would take that opportunity to do it at the least expensive time. So this infrastructure may very well last 60 or 80 years if it weren't for the fact we were doing the other work in the area.
Thank you. Thank you. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 618, Councillor Gardner, performance monitoring of LID controls. Would you like to move something? Would you like to move something?
I'm not going to move this.
So you're recommending red?
No, I'm just not going to move it.
You're just not going to move it? You'll move red, Councillor Thompson? Oh, sorry, green?
So
Wait, second. Councillor Humphreys? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
through you and to Mr. Waters, if you could just maybe elaborate on what information you gave me yesterday. Or maybe should I say my concern first?
Just, yeah, I would just bring up your comments and, yeah.
Okay, my concern is that this now is pretty established practice, and certainly having the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority is really, ahead of the curve on LIDs. Isn't there enough research and knowledge that we can use in order not to do something this extensive? So, and Mr. Waters answered me. Oh, Anka's going to answer? That's true. Anka answered.
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there is a lot of knowledge for design and construction, not so much knowledge in monitoring and looking at how they really perform these low-impact development controls when put in place. Conservation Authority, they have a lot of knowledge. They are looking at all type of low-impact development, bioswales, infiltration trenches, exfiltration systems, porous pavement, and there is not enough knowledge on long-term monitoring. And this is what triggered this project, the fact that we implemented quite a few LIDs, and we would like to know if they really perform exactly how we thought part of the design.
Councillor?
My response, and I agree with you, but my response is, LID, we were talking about this at the last council, LIDs have been held up as a great new way to handle stormwater. And yet we really don't know because they haven't been monitored appropriately. So I'm a little disappointed that we didn't know that when we went gung-ho with the LIDs. And I understand we have to do this, but I think it's actually strange that we were so in favor of the LIDs as a way to really help us and developers, yet we really don't know how they perform.
Councillor,
Just a comment.
And I guess I'll just ask, I'm just curious, considering Lake Simcoe is in favor of this too, so have you brought it up at the table there, just to ask why they favor it so much and what their thoughts are?
I haven't brought it up because I think it's really something that, well, true, Lake Simcoe has, what we do is dependent upon partly, or in some cases mostly, what Lake Simcoe is telling us. But we do have responsibility in asking the question, well, how do they work?
And I don't agree, and that's why I'm just suggesting maybe we ask
late.
that. And I'm just saying maybe we ask that question at Lake Simcoe as well, so that way we can hear what they have to say as well.
And I can ask that, but
I
that
appreciate
question should have been asked last term before we held this up as the way to go. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 623. Councillor Gardner, GIS scanner. Would you like to move something? You'll move green. Second. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner.
I raised this, and it's a question, a comment that could go to many of our projects. So we have a cost of $10,000, which is very little. But I don't think that's the true cost because we do get money for our old equipment. Now, I don't know for an old scanner what the market value is, but no, we don't. Not for that. Okay, but for other things where especially with fleet, where we're replacing and we say we're going to get X amount of money, I think that credit should be built into the project cost.
Okay. I think we'll take it into consideration, but Mr. CEO, did you want to?
To Mr. Mayor, so first of all, on most technology equipment, quite frankly, it's you weigh it to determine its value, if there's any. In most cases, it just gets scrapped and recycled for the precious metals that are in there. As it relates to fleet, the challenge with doing that is that we'd be taking a best guess. We basically we can't take that equipment out of service until we get the new equipment. And it's only at that point that we put it up for auction, and really depends on the market at that time and the actual shape of the vehicle when it hits the auction. So we'd still be taking a guess at that value, and in any event, the value that we receive for that goes back into the reserve anyway. So the monies are captured at the end of the day. They're just not allocated. They're put back into the reserve after we sell it at an auction.
Counselor?
I'm trying to remember if we ever get a year-end report on what we've been able to sell and what we've been able to realize with respect to cost, the amount of money.
I think we do get a report that's talks, it's a report, oh, that's the capital,
So,
reserve.
to you, Mr. Mayor, I don't believe we currently report out on the results of auctions, but it's a public process that we do in a formal way, and that money, whatever we raise from it at the time, just that money goes into reserve.
Thank you.
Counselor? That's it? Counselor Thompson?
Thank you. Just a quick comment. I raised this with our CAO. When I first saw this item in the binder and I read that the current scanner is obsolete, no longer supported by the vendor, and not compatible with the town's current software environment, my first thought is, well, first off, why is this before us? Because obviously everybody's going to green light it. And so for council's consideration, perhaps we also look at, when we talk about delegated authority or the process, empowering staff a little bit to make these decisions from an operational perspective. They have a threshold by which they can run their departments or make decisions that is much higher than this $10,000 threshold. And so I think there should be some consideration that, especially when dealing with a piece of equipment that is obsolete and no longer supported, the fact that it has to come to us for us to say, yes, staff, you can buy something that replaces this obsolete piece of equipment, I just don't think it's efficient.
Mr. CL?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I thank Councilor Thompson for the comment, and we are. I've already had a couple of conversations, and we'll look at a process to bring to council to allow us to make those kinds of decisions in the future and just act on them.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments, questions, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 624, Councillor Gardner, library rooftop, HVAC units. Would
Thank
like to
you.
move something?
I'm not ready to move.
You're not ready? Does anyone want to move something? Councillor Humphries, move Green. Second, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. And this actually was raised by, not this exact thing, but a point was raised by Councillor Gilliland. This is in our asset management plan to replace, but it is in the plan to replace in the position that it's in. So there's no costing here of that extra cost to move to the roof. So where are we capturing that cost?
Mr. CL.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So the current design of Library Square project, in that construction project is the cost of actually moving the air conditioning from where it is to one floor up when we create those two meeting rooms. So that is built into the construction estimate that you have already approved for Library Square. The actual replacement of the units is not, because it was already planned as a capital item in future years. So by bringing this forward now, all we're trying to do is get the actual replacement into the scope of the overall project. Our thinking is that the best way to do this is let the general contractor take the old one out, put the new one in while he's there, rather than doing this as two separate projects. So we want to be able to add this capital amount to the overall project so that we can say that it's funded and we can put it into the overall project.
Councillor.
Thank you. And that's sensible. My remembrance from the discussion at the council table with respect to doing this was that the cost to move it to the roof was not included.
No, it was.
And we were asking for a figure on what that would cost.
Ms. McDougall.
Thank you. Through Mr. Mayor, I know that there was that question in our meeting in July. I did speak with the consultants and subsequently submitted and sent an email to council communicating that the relocation cost of the HVAC units is included in the capital project that was presented in July to council. The budget before you today is simply to replace the units as if they were staying status quo. So the relocation costs are captured in the Library Square budget.
Thank you. I
Counselor?
obviously missed that email.
That's okay.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 629. $114? Yeah, it was both. So 629, Councillor Gardner, AFLC replacement of arena seating. Would you like to move something? Move green? Second, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner, floor is yours.
I mean, I know this area, it does look horrible, but it's a general comment on when we're looking at our projects, looking at want versus need. In this case, we need it because it has looked this bad for quite a while now. And I think it's not fair to our patrons of the leisure complex. But I think we need to be very careful going forward with that fine line between want versus need.
Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 640, Councillor Kim, AFLC pool boiler replacement. Councillor Kim, would you like to move something?
Green, please.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Kim, floor is yours.
Thank you. Just a comment on general equipment items, and I just pulled this as an example. You know, in future budgets, if we can just include, instead of you know, the project benefits minimizes unexpected equipment breakdowns, and we understand the obvious outcomes of not going ahead with the replacement, but I think for us to just make it clear to residents in terms of what we're basing our decisions on, and we know there's been past reports over other equipments and that we can rely on as well, and but whether you include the prior report item where we supported, or in particular, it'd be nice to have an option in terms of if we had to make do with this boiler, how much would it cost to repair it and to function within the minimum standards. And if it's not repairable, then we'll put that in there. If it is repairable, but it might be $100,000, it might last only a year and a half. Just something that we can kind of base decisions on if we're just looking at the one sheet, that we didn't have to fumble through multiple reports, but just so that when residents watching or sitting in the audience, there's quite a few here today, that we have people know that why we're making the decision. So if we could just have more information on not just this piece of equipment but others, but I'm certainly in agreement that with this, based on past reports and looking at the read here, that it likely needs a new boiler, but just some more information such as that I mentioned would be nice in subsequent budgets. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kim. I think staff will capture your comments and take them moving forward. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you. And again, a general comment. We often, if not always, go with the lowest cost. But in this case, we have to look at the most efficient and with respect to environmental implications.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo.
Just a general comment on some of these ones, particularly at the AFLC. And there may be no value to this, but it came to mind after the significant reconstruction of that facility, particularly the pictures of the doors. I visited it and I saw those not far after we did the reconstruction and spent millions, and it couldn't click to me why we would go through all that construction and not replace things that were quite obvious, and we're doing it now, and clearly it needs to be done. It's just, again, there's no value to this other than me maybe just venting that those kind of things should have been captured when we're doing a reno of that size in this facility.
I'll just add in, I think that all of us were frustrated with that redevelopment of that facility. So there was lots of discussion last term in regards to the fact that some things were not done and some things were, and it just seems like things keep coming year after year that get added on that maybe could have been dealt with during that reconstruction. So your comments are very, very valid, Councillor Gallo. Thank you. Councillor Gartner, second time.
Thank you. Just to add on to your comments, and I think I mentioned it to Miss Robin over there. Those doors fit so poorly that we had, or we do have electric heaters in those exit areas, and they go full blast, and the energy goes, I mean, it's just ridiculous. So glad we're finally taking care of that. And I think we should reduce our use of electric heaters as much as possible. And in this case, in an exit area where it's cold anyway.
Are you suggesting we use gas heaters?
Well, I'm suggesting we don't use any heaters in the exit areas, and we
Okay.
just let
I was
people
just-
be a little bit cold as they go out or in. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 646, Councillor Gardner. Sark Cooling Evaporator Tower.
I have
Would you
no
like-
idea why I pulled this. I move it as a green.
Move it as a green. Councillor Humphrey second. So I'm considering, since that was said, there's no comments or questions, so I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 656, Councillor Gardner, Sark Low E Ceiling Arenas. Oh, Councillor Gallo,
On the previous one,
did you have a comment?
just
on
a quick.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Just clearly it needs to be done based on the pictures. But I'm just curious, looking at one of the pictures, what our maintenance scheduling is or regime around these kinds of things. If we look at the base of this unit, it's in very poor shape, probably because it wasn't maintained and looked after and painted and all of that stuff to extend its life. And it's just a comment that it appears to me, looking at these, that if there's a maintenance program in place for these types of things to our best to extend the life of them, they maybe wouldn't be in this condition. This is the Sark, and it's not that old.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. So we are on 656. Councillor Gardner, did you want to move this? This is the Sark Low E-Ceiling Arenas. I will move this as green. Thank you. Second, Councillor Gilliland. Go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
My question is about comment about the energy conservation and demand management plan. I don't know if council ever saw that. So I'm pretty sure council didn't. So when we have a plan noted in our budget, I appreciate having a copy of that plan or a link to that plan. It sounds to me like a pretty important plan, and perhaps it was more for staff, but I still think that it's something that council should have. And I don't think it's online. I'm not sure about.
Anka?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the plan is posted on the web. It's a legislative requirement to have it posted. It was posted on July 1st. I can send a link. On the
town website.
Where on the town's website?
I have to check to see.
She'll get you that. Councillor, she'll get you the link. How's that?
Yes,
Thank you.
There is not a specific page for this energy conservation. There is a page for the community energy plan, but not a dedicated
Okay.
page to this corporate energy management plan. But it's posted on the web, being a legislative requirement to have it posted there.
And Councillor,
I
I'll
will
just
provide a link.
yeah, and I'll just add to it that Ank and I had a conversation about the website and some things that we might be making changes so it can be easily accessible to residents and to us as far as being able to find everything that this town has done in regards to climate change, in regards to energy improvement, the environment, and everything. So we're gonna change that up so it becomes easily accessible. So.
Climate change, it should be right up front and center. And then my comment again, and to the public, if it's mentioned in a budget report as, the requirement, then it has to be readily available. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. And I would just say that, yeah, maybe we could, within this report, staff, like if you have something like that, maybe you could just add Mr. Seo, if we could just add like the link in that report as well, that might be helpful. Councillor, oh, you don't want to say anything, Councillor? Oh, you do? Well, your name's not there anymore, but Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just to clarify Councilor Gardner's point, we approved that plan in June this summer. It's a 50-page document, and so I'm sure it is readily available, but hopefully council remembers that we did approve it, and so these items are out of that plan that we approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 665. Councilor Gardner, Energy and Demand Management Plan Implementation. I guess this is an extension of what we were just talking about. Would you like to move it?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you're the one that pulled it.
I'm too busy thinking about.
You need to
Sorry,
pay
what-
attention. Would you like to move this one?
So are we on 6.58?
665, Energy and Demand Management Plan Implementation.
Okay, no, I do have a comment.
Okay, so Councillor, do you want to move it, Green?
Yes, please.
Yes, Councillor Gardner moves it. Second, Councillor Gallo, did you have your hand up? Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, Councillor Gallo. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you. I brought a motion to council, I don't know, in the last term, and council thought that the things that I was talking about were too small for a motion. But these small things do add up. And one of the main things I find, and I don't know about the rest of council, I'm often here at night or on the weekend, the lights are on. I walk around turning off the lights, and I'm really tired of doing that. So anything that we can do with the sensor system in the kitchen is the lights are always on there, for example. So thank you. And pardon? I can't.
Point of order? What's your point of order?
Not directly related to what we're approving. We already approved the plan. So I feel like, why are we talking about the lights? I just feel like maybe this is something you can talk about offline.
Okay, Councillor, I'll take that and say, Councillor, if you can just stick to the specific issue that we're dealing with, the item.
Thank you. Perhaps I was just bringing council's attention to it as this is something that I had raised earlier. So I am glad that we're paying attention to this, and I think it's important.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 671. Councillor Gardner, Church Street, exterior doors. Can I get you? Would you wanna move?
I can't move either of them.
Can't move. Someone want to move? Do something with this? Councillor Humphreys Green. Councillor Gilliland, second. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
So this goes back to what I was saying about timing of projects. We're talking, these two items are painting and replacement of doors at the Church Street School. And this is going to be closed as of April. This facility is going to be closed down perhaps for a couple of years. So why would we be putting money in the budget now for something that needs to be done much later on, 2021, maybe even 2022?
Mr. CO?
So I want to defer those.
Okay. Mr. CO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, this is similar to the air conditioning item, basically, and it sort of relates to Councillor Gallo's earlier conversation or comment about AFLC and getting a big project done and then coming back and doing other parts of it. Our intention here is to put these next two items into the overall tender, and hopefully we will get some efficiencies by having the JC look at these rather small items in the context of the Library Square. The last thing we wanted to see was the Library Square being, officially opened, and people walk through a building that, where there either needs paint or is, the next month we're scaffolding it up and painting the building or repointing it. So our intention was to get all that work done during the construction period and include it in the tender. So that's why these next two items are on the list now.
Thank you. Councillor Garner?
So perhaps you can explain to me this process. I understand that they need to be in the larger project for cost savings. So these are in fact a placeholder, but we're not going to be doing these until the construction is nearing its end?
Mr. CO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the intent would be to just put these projects into the overall project. So the GC would be, that is successful in doing the project, they would decide when they want to do it. The building, as you mentioned, will be closed for 2 years, so they could do it at the beginning if they want to get it out of the way, or they could leave it to the end. But the bottom line is, when the project is done, it would all be finished. And we can't put this scope into the contract without having the funds allocated towards it. So that's why we're asking for it to be put into this year's capital budget.
Thank
Councillor?
you. And I'll just say, hopefully this will be put not into the beginning, but the end, because then we'll have doors and painting that's 2 years older instead of just fresh and new for the opening.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 672. Councillor Gardner. Church Street, repaint interior wall surfaces. Similar? Did you similar comments? Similar comments? Did you want to move this one, or did you want someone else to move it? Councillor Thompson moving green. Second, Councillor Humphreys. I'm assuming it's just the same comments, so I'll just call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 682. Councillor Gilliland. Central York Fire Services 4-4, replacement of 2 steam humidifiers. Can I get you to move something? You'll move green. Second. Councillor Kim. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did speak offline to Ms. McDougall about this, and I had some pending questions, and it was more or less on a unit that I didn't really have clarity on whether or not we had any current issues, had there been any replacements done on this machine. It's kind of similar comments to Councillor Kim was saying about the boiler and the need, and whether or not this is something like a simple repair. We are kind of just coming to the threshold point of its lifespan of 15 years. It's not even quite yet the 15 years. So I just kind of want a little more comfort in knowing that we're actually replacing this, as opposed to not even trying to maybe make a few repairs in the meantime, versus maybe waiting a couple years.
Ms. McDougall.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. In finding out information from our staff for the response to Councillor Gilliland, actually, I've also reached out to our Deputy Fire Chief to try to get on the ground info on these humidifiers about replacement and maintenance. I just have an email from him this morning that due to the level of moisture in the hall, they've had to actually go ahead and do it and take it out of operating for $10,000. They've been able to do that. So this item can be pulled. Just learned that this morning. So it's been taken care of through operating. Apologize, this was
So we can remove this
we
one?
can remove this item. I just learned that just now.
Okay.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the moisture got too high in the fire hall. They had to do it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wait.
Thank you.
Perfect.
So Councillor Humphreys, did you want to change that to a red? Yeah. Who seconded that one? Kim? Councillor Kim? Are you okay with that, Councillor Kim? Okay. Everyone understands? All right. Councillor Gilliland, you fine?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 689. Councillor Gilliland, playground replacement, Taylor Park. Did you want to move something?
No. Not yet.
Well, you can move red if you want. It's up to
Yeah,
you.
you can do it.
Councillor Humphreys? You're going to move green? Second? Councillor Kim. Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. And I'm going to speak to this and also with 6-93 for Harmon Park. I did have a conversation offline with Ms. Camp about these parks. I understand there's an asset management plan in place, and I was within that conversation. These two were there. I guess there was more than two identified, but these two were identified as being in worse shape than any other playground that they could put forward to this capital budget. And it kind of leads me to question: the AMP is not a perfect science, and I wonder if we're a little overzealous in maybe the rubrics that's being used to make an assessment on these parks. I don't really see that they're in that bad a shape. And I wonder if it's something that maybe we need to review in assessing when these playgrounds should be replaced, just based on the photos and the condition, based on, one decking board that needs replaced at Taylor Park, and Harmon Park doesn't really appear to be very much other than displeasing, or a child might not find it as appealing. And I just wonder if we're just being a little overzealous and replacing something that really doesn't need to be replaced. And I'm just wondering if that is something that we feel we can defer and maybe step back and reassess the AMP methodology on that.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the opportunity to have comment on this. Playground replacement is identified in our asset management plan. And the two playgrounds that you see before you, Taylor and Harmon, are part of that plan that was presented to council. And if you look on the plan on page 8 of the asset management plan, you'll see we have 7 more coming next year. So if council wishes for us to come up with some alternative strategies or benchmarks with regards to playground placement, we're happy to do that. Generally, what we do is it's somewhere around the 20 or 25 year mark. We look at playground replacement, certainly trying to maintain or keep up play value within a play structure. With regards to maintenance, we have an ongoing maintenance program. Every month, every single playground is inspected. With that, a deficiency report is provided. We then immediately take care of that from a maintenance perspective. So seeing a playground well maintained is what you're supposed to see. But at some point, the ongoing maintenance becomes a little bit problematic. And we also feel the play value is somewhat in question. So we have identified as part of our asset management plan an ongoing replacement program. We are required by Canadian Safety Association to ensure that we have safe playgrounds, and so we are quite diligent in making sure that occurs. If council wishes us to extend the period of time for replacement beyond where we are right now, we can certainly do that. I don't know what metrics necessarily would trigger the replacement of a playground. I use the example of Woods Park, for instance, that you see after this one. Mm-hmm. That's a very old play structure, but it's still well maintained. It's not unsafe. But the play value, as you can see, is quite minimal. So if council wishes me to do it, I would appreciate some input with regards to what information council would like to see that would assist you in making a decision on moving forward with a playground replacement. Thank you.
Thank you. And I mean, as you said, 20 to 25 years, we're just again approaching just that 20-year mark. And I just don't know if maybe our assessment value on when that needs to be replaced is on point. The play value, I understand that as well. Looking at Taylor Park, definitely there's, crime. I want to be really polite about this, but, I do think there's a lot to offer within those parks, and I do think that they can be fun. I don't think that we need to have every brand new thing possible. I am interested in exploring and making sure that if we are replacing parks, that we are maybe changing our procurement specifications on different kinds of parks to make it interesting versus just simply just replace. I did have this conversation with Ms. Teekamp, and in response to the ones that are moving forward next budget, the conditions of them are not as severe as, from my understanding of what we're being presented today, and I don't find those at all severe. So again, that kind of makes me question whether or not these parks are ready for a replacement yet, and play value is subjective. And I believe that, it's safe to say that we can recommend on that Woods Park that, yeah, the play value on that probably needs to be replaced. I'm just not so sure the play value on the ones currently on the floor for Taylor and Harmon are justified at this time.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gallo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I would echo the comments, and I don't disagree with the process. I don't know if maybe another level or layer should be introduced in terms of some public engagement. These are here, and I think did we through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Downey, last year was this on our capital sheet as well, and I think I may have spearheaded that, but if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah. Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, exactly. It was on there last year, and yes, it was a comment, maybe you, Councillor Gallo. So we put it on again. It's still within the asset management plan. So one of our issues and one of the conundrums that we're in is it's identified within the asset management plan. It's presented for council for your review and approval, and so we're somewhat obligated to say if it's within the 10-year capital plan, asset management plan, then we should have some answer as to why we have not presented the plan as approved by council. So both of these playgrounds, in fact, all 3 playgrounds have been identified within the asset management plan. And as I say, we have 7 more next year. So I certainly would like to be able to present something to council that has addresses your needs, and if it means extending, fine, but then at some point that needs to be something needs to trigger us bringing that forward and saying this is the right opportunity, and whether that is community engagement or whatever, that's somewhat difficult to measure, as you can appreciate, within an asset management plan where we're trying to make sure that we have sufficient funds in order to deal with our infrastructure, and every playground's unique from that perspective. As you know, Taylor Park is a standalone park, a little parkette at the end of the street, whereas Harmon Park is adjacent and combined with Our Lady of Grace School. So you can appreciate the number of children playing on that play structure is a whole lot more than you're going to see in Taylor Park. So even though they may have been put in at the same time, one goes through a whole lot more use and wear than a playground that would be isolated from a school.
Councillor Gallo?
Thank you. And so, I haven't put a lot of thought to this, but to me, some community input would provide some value, because if I look at this, particularly Taylor, between a 2 and a maybe 10-year-old, are they going to question whether this is playability? They love this, and they are not thinking that this is not sufficient for my playability. So it's another layer I think needs to be put in there in order to I think do it right. And my gut tells me if we were to move forward with this and replace this, there's going to be some people in that neighborhood who are going to be happy. They're also going to say, did we really need to do this? So there's a question mark, and I don't disagree with the process in terms of the capital management, and it should be on the list. I think maybe there should be another filter in there that I agree everyone is different, and the amount of use on everyone is different. But there should be another filter in there before, perhaps from the capital management perspective to a budget, that we go through another step.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yeah, I appreciate the comments from Councillor Gilliland and Councillor Gallo, for sure. Makes you question. It doesn't look like it's such a bad shape, but I do want to make sure that our cost to keep it up, painted and keep it up to safe standards isn't outweighing the, even though it looks good, is it because of the upkeep that we're placing on it that we're making it look so good? But we need to stop that and have a playground that is resistant until the 15, 20-year mark when we start to work on this. And we want to make sure that we're CSA approved. You don't want to have any type of safety concerns. So just through Mr. Mayor, are we having, the last comment, it says, increased costs incurred by keeping aging infrastructure up to standard. Is that what we're facing right now at this park? I mean, do we feel like we're spending a lot more time on this park than others, and this is why we need to replace?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the answer to that is yes, and certainly I appreciate the conversation on the table because it is generating some ideas with regards to perhaps some additional filters. So I think some additional information that perhaps could help council would be how much we're spending maintenance-wise, some of the issues that we're having or reoccurring within in a particular playground, so that council has some indication as to what our maintenance costs are on a particular playground over a period of time. We certainly have no objection to doing a community survey in the area and soliciting information from the public. Our concern is the validity of that survey and what percentage of comments coming back would then initiate or generate a response to say, yes, that playground should be or should not be replaced. So some of those metrics are a bit problematic. But certainly information with regards to how much we're spending could be included within the report, and that is information that we certainly have. I take pride in the fact that it looks pretty good, and it should, because we're out there, we're maintaining on an ongoing basis. So that's to the credit of staff and to the budget that we have in order to make sure that these things last as long as they possibly can. But at some point, we feel that there needs to be an opportunity to go off and replace that, and as they say, add some play value. Playgrounds have changed a lot in 20 years. So it doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity for those children in the neighborhood to go someplace else. Anyway, I appreciate the opportunity for the comments.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, thank you very much. That's sort of, what I wanted to hear. It's the maintenance support. It's a 20-year-old, 21-year-old structure. Times have changed. I'm not saying kids can play with anything. It doesn't really matter. But we do take pride in our parks. I think we have the best around. I love driving around and seeing the great shape that they're all in. I rarely get a concern on them, which means we're doing an amazing job keeping things up to par. So here I'm leaning more in favor to move forward, but perhaps council may need a little more details on operational costs, keeping this one up to date and safe, and then we can make we don't really have either defer or not approve, but right now I'm sort of leaning on approval. But it would be nice, especially this one, because it's got the ship, and I have taken my grandson here quite a bit. He was really little. I don't know, he prefers others now, but maybe we'll have to see what the other conversation is. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. Mr. Downey, when we look at doing this to our replacement, do playground equipment go to the Accessibility Advisory Committee to look at? Because I noticed in here it talks about that the new structure would have AODA components to it, and I think that's an important thing to have everyone realize that the changeover would also allow for all children to be able to utilize the playground equipment.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. It's one of the things that we're talking about when we talk about playability of the playground. We certainly want to open up that opportunity, and answer to your question is yes. Playgrounds do go through the Accessibility Committee. All playgrounds have some accessible element, or try to incorporate some accessible element, not to the extent that we see in Diamond Jubilee Park, but certainly we would like to make sure that we have some accessible elements, and all new playgrounds that we're putting in have at least some accessible elements in them.
I appreciate that. Councillor Gartner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of years ago, I noticed that Toronto was starting to put in different kinds of neighborhood playgrounds, and I did send that photo to Mr. Downey, and I'll see if I can find it and resend it to council. So it includes everything that we're talking about, plus exercise opportunities incorporated not only for adults, but for adults with or adults who are actually in wheelchairs, because there were the different height levels. So all of our playgrounds kind of look the same when we replace them. I'm going to find that picture, and I'd like to send it to council and see what you think about that, and also just to have a basic costing on it. Mr. Downey.
Mr. Downey?
Through Mr. Mayor, I caught all that, but I didn't quite understand the last costing with regards to.
I don't think these new playgrounds that Toronto is putting in, these neighborhood playgrounds, it would cost much more than we are looking at here. But I'd like to know if that's true, and I'd like council to look at the new design and see if it appeals to them.
Through Mr. Mayor, with regards to the pictures, I have seen them, Councillor Gartner. As you know, we did incorporate some of those elements within the Diamond Jubilee Park, and so we appreciate that input. With regards to some of the structures that the City of Toronto is looking at, and they were using some natural materials.
Yes.
With that, the capital costs may be reduced. I can't say for sure, but certainly the operating costs then increase. So that would have to be reflected in any of our budgets. What we normally do is we use powder-coated metals. Those seem to be the most durable, and so we are concerned with regards to using any natural materials.
Councillor?
Thank you. And I did see there's a hospital in Ottawa, I think in Orleans, and the exterior looks like it's wood, but it's actually not. So it could have more of a wood feel without actually costing any more to maintain. I don't know what the capital cost is, though.
Is that a question?
No, I just, going forward, I'd like us to explore other possibilities and see if we can't make them more diverse and more usable for all of the population, including our adults who are living in that area.
Thank you. Councillor Kemp?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I didn't anticipate that we'd have such a long discussion on playgrounds. But given how many parks that we have and playgrounds and the capital costs incurred by these playgrounds, it certainly warrants the time. And specific to Taylor Park, I know I've played my fair share with my kids playing tag and grounders and enjoyed myself. But I think you hit it when you talk about playability. When we have, I have laptops that are 10 years old that are still functioning, and it looks fine, it looks great, it still works, but I want to change it because I want something new, faster, and all these other applications that may not run on it. I think playgrounds are kind of in the same boat, that we can't just visually look at it and say it doesn't need repair or it doesn't need to be discarded and have something new there. And so playability is something maybe in a future report, maybe you can bring back to council so that we can make an overarching process in terms of how we make these decisions, because it's not just about cost. I suspect that to maintain a park doesn't cost nearly as much as getting a new one. But you hear some kids might love certain parks and not so much other parks, and perhaps part of it is not just age and repair and maintenance costs, but it's also about the playability function and where it's located in town, because I would go across all over town to find different parks to play in. And so maybe 1 year we'll do the northwest, 1 year the southeast, so that everyone has options. But I think, I'd be fine with, I know I seconded the green, but I'd be fine with doing the red if the mover agrees with that, and maybe come back with another report and discuss about the playability and other functions. And just last point is, in many AMOs that we go to, there's so many playground manufacturers with great parks, playground ideas. And I know going to Tom Taylor Trail, there's a park up there that had relatively new playground equipment, and it's a lot of fun. Thank you.
Are you telling us about Newmarket stuff?
Yeah.
Oh.
We need to take the lead in
I
playgrounds.
see. I think what Councillor Thompson, before I just go to you just quickly, I think what I'm hearing around the table is that we should be looking at the policy on and how we move forward with that policy. And so I think that's something that staff are hearing from us, and I see our CAO is nodding his head, but Councillor Thompson, go ahead.
Through you to Mr. Downey. Mr. Downey, when council chooses to defer a project, does it have an impact on future projects? Is there a limit to the number of playground repairs that you can do in a calendar year? I just want to know sort of the impact of the process.
Mr. Downey?
To you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that question. Yes, it does. One of the questions certainly that I ask of my staff is, okay, now that we have this list of capital projects, can we actually do them all? Is that something that within the corporation we have the capability of moving forward with? So if we get into a situation where we have more projects than we can handle, then that is one of the reasons we may defer a particular project. I certainly want to limit the number of projects that we present to council that are still ongoing. Ideally, that would be limited to a year, and that projects wouldn't linger for much past that. So yes is the answer. It does have an impact depending on how many projects we have that particular year.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you. And when I was looking at the 10-year plan from last year to this year, I did notice that both Summit Park and Thomas Park got bumped to 2021. Can I assume then that's because council did not approve the two parks in front of us, Taylor and Harmon, last year, is now in the 2020 budget? And so did that force the change to 2021, or is that more of a case where staff went out and said, well, the park can last another year, it's not that urgent in terms of the scale of the parks available?
Mr. Downey?
Through Mr. Mayor, both of those discussions. So yes, we felt it could be moved, and secondly, we felt that we had too many projects on the go in order to ensure that we could complete it in that year.
Perfect. I think it's good to know in consideration of the concerns being raised by members of council with regards to, the shelf life of the playground, that staff continue to reevaluate year after year, regardless of where it is on the 10-year plan. They still look at it, in that base year and say, okay, well, can we get another year out of it or not? So, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Harvers, did you speak? Yeah, you did. Okay, so Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate Councillor Thompson's comments on that. And I just kind of wanted to follow up on some of the comments I've heard around the council table. Yes, staff is doing an amazing job with all the maintenance and the upkeep, and that's why we are keeping them in really good shape. I've heard diversity and making sure that the playability is different, and definitely diversity is something that I feel that we should be looking at. And I do feel there is some nostalgia to some of the playgrounds we have, and they shouldn't all look the same. I know my kids are now in university, but when my kids were younger, I was actually at the opening of Taylor Park, so I know that park well. But we made a day of we would hop in the car and we would go and check out other parks because they were somewhat different and they don't need to be all the same. And one of the concerns I had when I was speaking with Ms. Teekamp is, are we looking outside the box with different kinds of parks? I know I was at FCM and I saw a lot of different structures and a lot of different kinds of playgrounds, and I feel that maybe there's opportunity there, so I want to make sure we are doing this right. Just looking at the reasonings behind the current ones that are on the table, again, it's more like the rubrics and the process and whether or not there's a need right now, and I just want to make sure if we are going to be going down a road of doing any kind of replacing, we're doing it right. And I prefer to defer at this point and just really determine that we're taking the right steps, that really engage the community in a way that makes sense, and also just the best use of our monies at the time, and whether or not we're replacing these at a time that maybe needs some reassessment. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Humphreys, second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'm okay to defer it, but I don't want it to go further than this year to make a decision on these parks, because I don't want the domino effect of what we're seeing is these parks lagging.
So I'm just gonna stop you. I'm just gonna
What?
ask you that if
Sorry.
you are gonna defer it and you want to defer it, and that's fine, obviously.
No,
but
I don't right now.
No. But what is it that you're asking staff to come back? What are you deferring it for?
I actually don't want to defer it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm just hearing that around the table. And I'm afraid, I don't want to defer it because, first of all, a couple of things. I think we have an excellent policy, and I do believe that staff has been going through forefront in terms of new playground equipment and materials. We haven't had a chance to ask Mr. Downey about that. But if you drive around, if you go to McClellan Way and, Aurora Heights and McLeod, there's a new structure there that looks like it's incredible. I can't even imagine what the kids are thinking. It's like a 3-story structure. It's beautiful. So I do believe that, and they're different. There's another one by the north end of town. Because of Enrico, I do go to a lot of different parks, and I feel that they're incredible. They're exquisite, and I don't want our community to think, yeah, those are good enough, right? Or a park that's 25 years old. Oh, that's okay. Why is it? I feel that the residents will look at aging parks and look at that negatively. They're going to wonder what their taxes are doing. I mean, so you're going to see the next one that we're going to talk about. I know it's nostalgic because it's the same swing I said I went to school with, 40 years ago. But things change, and we do need to keep up with it. And we keep our parks. Our parks are what people love. Part of why our community is the way it is. So, for me, I'm worried about stopping it because it's going to be a domino effect. It's 1998 since we've had this park. It's 20 years. Are we going to wait to 30? So then that means our service levels start declining. So I don't know. I think we have maybe if people want to understand the policy and why we're doing this, it's in the asset management plan. We want to sort of decrease it a little bit. That's fine. But for me, I really don't want to stop it from moving forward. That's my opinion. I think we've done a great job over the last 9 years I've been on council. I'm not concerned about it. And I do appreciate really seriously the AODA component and the CSA standards. We had one park that we had some concerns with, and staff was very quickly to do what they needed to do. It was still certified, but they actually changed some things to answer to residents. So I'm going on a little too long, but for me, I don't want to defer this, but if the rest do, then we'll do it.
You have 5 minutes. You can go on for
No,
5
I'm done.
minutes. All
I
right.
don't like going 5 minutes. I never go. If I go 5 minutes, something's wrong.
I see some looks saying, don't tell her she can go on for 5
I know,
minutes.
please
but, all
stop.
right. Councillor Thompson for a second time.
Thank you. My preference is to approve the 2 parks. We've already delayed it 1 year. This will be the second year we delayed it. As heard earlier, we have 7 parks on the docket for 2021. I think it's an excellent suggestion to revisit the policy and the process and try and get more engagement. And I welcome that report coming forward this year in preparation of the next budget cycle. But if we defer these 2, then we're looking at 9 projects on the docket, which means something else will get pushed out. So my preference is to approve the 2 before us and then start working on looking at the policy and revising it in preparation for 2021.
Thank you. Any other comments? Questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Council, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. Sure, we can. Let's just do the other playground because I don't think that we're going to do another conversation. So, 693. Councillor Gilliland, did you want to move that, or you're not going to move that one as well? You want Councillor Humphreys to do that? So you want to put a motion to defer it? Okay. Someone want to second that? Councillor Gardner. All those in favor of deferring? Opposed? Harold, are you voting? That fails. Someone like to put something on the floor? Green, Councillor Thompson, Councillor Humphrey, second. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. I will call a 5-minute recess.
Okay, if we can call everyone back to the table, we'll continue. No. Okay, guys, we're gonna go ahead and start with 697. Okay, I'm just gonna be chairing for about 10-15 minutes while Tom runs some errands or does some stuff.
Harold, I forgot to pull that.
You want to pull that?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so Councillor Gardner just wanted to go back to one item. So we'll at the end? Okay. So we'll go as continued then. So 697, that was pulled by Councillor Gallo. Would you like to move it?
Yeah, green light. It was linked to the others. Just
Okay.
just the note that this is probably the one that really needs to be
Okay.
done. That was it.
Okay, a seconder? Okay, Councillor Thompson, okay. All those approve? She said there's no comments or questions. Okay. You got, yeah. Yeah, just put it to a vote then. All those in favor? Opposed? That passes, thank you. 6103, pulled by Councillor Thompson. It was Councillor Gallo. Councillor Thompson, do you want to move it? Green, second. Councillor Gardner. Okay, over to you, Councillor Thompson.
Just really a comment. You know, when I was first going through this one, you know, looking at the key goals of the inventory and the assessment, the condition ratings, you know, I was looking for some information. Had a great lengthy conversation with Mr. Jim Tree, just to talk about, you know, what they're doing now, what the plan is going forward. Great to hear that they're on it, and I certainly would encourage my fellow colleagues, for those who haven't had a chance to talk to Jim about this program, to do so, because it certainly seems that they've identified a number of different gaps, and that through this, not only will they do a stronger job of assessing it, but able to mitigate those issues going forward, and so happy to put forward the green.
Anyone else comments or questions? Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. And this is a very necessary project. My issue with this is that, well, I would like to know, did this SRE, was that, that's actually on page 103, did this go out to tender? How did we pick this particular firm to do this huge project?
Mr. Downey.
I'll start and then Anka can finish, because this is an opportunity for the two departments to collaborate. So actually, it was the engineering division that prepared the report, and Anka can talk about that. And then that report is presented to us, and then we take that information and turn that into capital projects.
But did we go out to tender on this firm?
I'll let Anka speak to that.
Ms. Mahale?
Mr. Chair, we did tender for SRE assessment. Every couple of years, it's a legislated requirement that bridges have to be assessed. We have one bridge that belongs to the town on John Westway, and the Ministry of Transportation consider bridge any culvert with a span larger than 3 meters. So we have more than one culverts like this. So every couple of years, we hire a structural consultant to look and assess all this infrastructure and tell us what type of maintenance or capital work have to implement to keep them in good condition. SRE has been hired through an open procurement process, and they assessed the infrastructure, and from there they were asked to provide a plan for maintenance.
I'm not following it. So SRE does an open procurement process? They were hired through. For this particular $1 million project, or in the past?
No, for the assessment.
Okay.
Because they were hired to do the assessment,
Okay.
we extended their assignment to provide more information on the maintenance.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Comments? Okay. Put to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay. Next is 6107. Councillor Thompson. Okay. A second. Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Thompson.
Through my conversations with Jim Tree and Anka, you know, sidewalks are continually being, I guess, repaired or, in some cases, assessed throughout the year. And I guess it was really my comment really around, you know, whether there's any warranty or any sort of guarantees for, you know, for the town. Over the last number of years through 2B and 2C, we certainly put in lots of sidewalks, and even for myself, seeing along Conover and other places, seeing them grinding it down from the heaving or different issues popping up. And I know that there is no warranty once we assume them, and so I don't necessarily know if there's an answer, but it would be good to look at the process and see if there's some way that we can ensure that when those developers who build the sidewalks put them in, that, you know, should issues occur, that some way we can either identify them sooner and get them to fix, or they be on the hook of it. It kind of reminds me of the skate park and so forth, and so it's just a conversation I had with staff with regards to, you know, how can we, I guess, hold those accountable in the short term for those issues that arise.
Mr. Waters, are you aware of any, is there anything that we can investigate that might be able to help us in uncovering some kind of warranty, or Ms. Mahale?
Developers are, they have to provide regular maintenance on each new subdivision until assumption. And our site inspectors are on site, and then if there is a need to replace a cracked sidewalk bay or a length of the sidewalk that is uneven, they will have to do it. And before we grant, we assume, we do a thorough investigation on the condition of the above infrastructure and underground infrastructure, curbs, sidewalks. After assumption is the responsibility of the town for any maintenance. So we try our best to identify any deficiencies that sidewalks have before assumption. If we assume and after a winter or a couple of winters there are issues, we are responsible with this. There is no warranty given by the developer to the town.
And, you know, after the completion of the sidewalk, how long can we go without assuming? Can we go 2-3 years without assuming?
2-3 years, sometimes longer.
Okay.
And issues are identified during this period of time.
Okay.
Once they are addressed before assumption, we are good to assume. We grant assumption to the developer. If a year or a year and a half and couple of years after there are issues, the town is responsible for maintenance.
Okay. Thank you. You're good, Councilor Gardner? Okay. Pull to a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That passes. Okay, so we're just going to go back to request by Councilor Gardner, 668. Oh, there's one on the other side? Oh, sorry. Okay. Sorry, 6114, Councilor Thompson.
I'd like to put yellow out on this one.
Yellow.
Only because it says to secure the necessary funding to implement the business process automation and data integration work plan as part of the 5-year IT strategic plan, which is still to be approved.
Okay, seconder, Councillor Gilliland. Councillor Thompson.
I just threw it out there. I mean, you know, I know the report's forthcoming. I had our CAO put forward an email with regards to the strategic plan and did suggest in that email about yellows with regards to projects that are associated with that. And so I just wanted to formally put that out there.
Okay, Councillor Gardner seconds. Any other comments, questions? Okay, put to a vote. All those in favor of the yellow? Opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay, and now we'll go back to 668, Councillor Gardner.
I'm not sure who would be able to answer this question, but I had a look at Victoria Hall last night.
Sorry, did you want to move it? It's already approved, okay. 668?
Well, it's approved in the first motion. Okay, so I had a look at Victoria Hall last night. Just the ladies, and it's a beautiful structure the way it is. And I'm wondering, it's kind of a strange situation where we can make it accessible through a ramp, but we don't have an accessible washroom inside. And we've been over this in past years, but is it possible to make the back accessible so that we can leave the beauty of the heritage structure as it is?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Chair, with regards to this particular item, it was the Accessibility Committee that wanted us to consider a ramp. So it's been tabled in support of the committee's recommendation. We would be evaluating the most appropriate location for a ramp and accessibility, while we also would be evaluating what other accessibility improvements would be required. So although this is tabled, this is only one part of what needs to be considered to make that facility accessible. So at this point, although it's tabled for us to at least have it available to us to move forward, but our staff recommendation would likely not to proceed unless we know we're confident that we can improve other amenities within the facility. Otherwise, we're getting individuals in the building, but then they can't access a washroom or they can't even access other amenities. So we'll not proceed unless we know we can improve other amenities. But we needed to adhere to in support of the Accessibility Committee because it was their ask.
Thank you. And this has been an ask from that committee for a long time, and rightly so. It's an important town-owned building. But when we looked at it in the past, it was just going to be so expensive. So much needs to be reconfigured to make it accessible that we stopped looking at it, and here it is again. So I'm glad to know that staff, I appreciate your comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so that was already approved, so we'll move on. Oh, Mayor's back, so I'll give the floor back to the Mayor. We finished with now starting section.
We're starting section, okay. Have you started pulling anything? No? All right. Start to my left this time. Councillor Gallo? No? Councillor Thompson?
8-3 and 8-19.
And 8-19? Okay. Councillor Gardner? Sure. Councillor Kim? 8-16. Okay, that's it? No? Councillor Humphreys? Nothing? Councillor Gilliland? In the 8s?
17, 8-18. And if I can make a comment just on 8-12.
8-12. Okay. Councillor Gardner?
8.8,
Mm-hmm.
8.13,
Mm-hmm.
8.23 and 8.24 for a quick question because I forgot to ask Ms. McDougall those.
Okay. That's it? Okay, so I have 8.3, 8.8, 8.12, 8.13, 8.16, 8.17, 8.18, 8.19, 8.23, and 8.24. Anything else? All right. Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor Thompson? Councillor Kim? All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8.3. Councillor Thompson, would you like to move something?
I'll move green.
Green. Second. Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Thompson, the floor is yours.
Just a quick question. I mean, certainly, the Arboretum's done a great job over the years, and certainly happy to support it. But it's always been my memory that they've come before us to present and say, here's what our plan is for the coming year, and here's what we're looking for. So, is there an intent for them to come before us to talk about what their plan is for 2020?
Mr. Downey?
Through Mr. Mayor, I have not discussed that with them at this point. Happy to do that. If council wishes a presentation by the Arboretum on their efforts last year and what they're proposing to do this year.
Yeah, sometimes
Or
it's
next year, sorry.
sometimes they surprise us and says we don't need as much money as you're budgeting for too, which is always nice. But
They have been aware of the budget, so they are in agreement with the budget number. But you are correct. They have made presentations in the past, and we're happy to discuss that with them.
personally, I'd love to hear what they do every year. So.
Thank you, Councillor. Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8.8. Councillor Gardner. Would you like to move something on that one?
No, thanks.
No? Councillor Thompson, green? Councillor Kim, second. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
My understanding is we had a trail committee and they did an extensive review and plan for the trails in Aurora. So I'm wondering why this is coming about now. We're adding to that trail system in 2C.
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, you are correct. We have a Trails Master Plan. I have it before me. It was approved in November of 2011. Upon the development of the subdivision, we made sure that the trail system that was approved by council was also identified within the subdivision. We are now proposing that now that this is built, we now go forward and do a design and construction of the trail system as approved within the subdivision agreement and the Trails Master Plan.
So just to be clear, this was already in the plan, and now we're just going to move forward with it now that 2C is ready?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none. Oh, Councillor Thompson. Just got
Thank you. Through you to Mr. Downey. Just to be clear, the $200,000 identified in the budget for 2020 and 2021 is just for the design, or does it include construction?
Mr. Downey?
Mr. Mayor, it's the design. What we do is if both projects get approved, we would more than likely combine this into one procurement for the design of both the trails within Mattamy and DeGraff.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 8.12. Councillor Gilliland, Winter Road Monitoring System.
I'm going to move to green.
Move green. Second. Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gilliland, floor is yours.
Thank you, through Mr. Mayor. Just a quick comment. I did have some conversations offline with Mr. Tree and Al Downey. In the fact that just some clarity on this, that it is a pilot project and there is an annual monitoring fee, and they are making some I guess there is going to be a report coming to council based on the progress, so it makes me feel a little more comfortable, but I just kind of feel like maybe that should have been presented, and as well as a little overview of what this actual monitoring system was. I did get that through email. Did rest of council get that information, Mr. Downey?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no. When we sent the response to you, we only sent it to you, since you were the only one who asked the question. So when we respond, we only respond to the councillor who asked us the question. I'm happy to talk about the system if you wish.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I had a subsequent conversation with Mr. Tree, and he had sent me an email with the specifications attached, and I was under the impression the rest of council was going to get that attachment, just so we could see what this actual product was that we were investing in as a pilot. So was there the intent of circulating that, Mr. Downey?
Mr. Downey?
Through you, Mr. Chair, absolutely, I can do that. I can do that from my phone. So happy to provide that information to members of council.
Thank you. Councillor Gillette?
Perfect. That's really what I was looking for, to make sure that we have all the right information and understanding what this project meant, and that it was a pilot, and that there was a fee attached on an annual basis, and what it is that we're actually investing in. So I think it looks great. I love what it's going to do, so I'm happy to move it forward.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this is very exciting. It's always good to have more details, but I think this is a very exciting pilot project, as is the other one. The snowplow safety enhancement pilot project. I think this could really help the town improve its service, save money, improve safety, decrease liability issues. So
That's what we're all about.
Congratulations to staff on suggesting both of these.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Gardner. Any other comments or questions on this one? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 813, Councillor Gardner. Southwest Leslie Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On page 814, I'm looking at the description of this.
Councillor Shine.
I don't
Move?
move it.
Oh, you don't move? Councillor Thompson, green? Is that green? Yep. Councillor Kemp, second. Go ahead, Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you look at page 814, what we've got is a sidewalk, and right next to the sidewalk, we've got a multi-use trail. And I don't really...
Can I ask you, I'm just curious, because we did do one on Yonge Street, and it was very similar, so I'm just wondering what your thoughts were on that one.
Well, the one on Yonge Street is different to me. This one is just, I mean, it's mirroring the sidewalk. And the whole idea about trails is to have off-road trails, and to me this is just an expansion of the sidewalk. So I'm not in favor of it.
Okay. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Just perhaps somebody can clarify. When I read that proposed sidewalk and multi-use trail, I guess I'm thinking of the sidewalk and I guess trail that's on the north side of Bayview, north side of Wellington, between Bayview and essentially the Sark, so that people walk on the sidewalk, and then we have an asphalted trail that people bike
Almost a
and run on and
bike
stuff.
lane almost type of thing.
Kind of thing. And so I guess that's what I was thinking about when I see it as a proposed sidewalk multi-use trail. Is that correct? Thank you.
Anka? Yep.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Multi-use trail, it will be a side-by-side sidewalk, 1.5 meter width, and a multi-use trail, 2.4 meter, to a total of 3.6 meter. And the region also has a standard, will have a 1.9 meter width bike lane on road. The multi-use trail is used like an off-road bike lane. Some cyclists, especially younger or kids, feel uncomfortable to bike on a regional road, and that's the reason we have on one side a multi-use trail attached, next side by side with the sidewalk.
Councillor Thompson?
I believe when they did the reconstruction of Leslie, they did the same thing on the south side of St. John's, between Leslie and Bayview as well. And so that kind of completes the loop, if you so to speak. Certainly, I know a lot of people, myself included, have run or walked or whatever on Leslie, so we definitely need a sidewalk there. And so I'm certainly supportive of this.
Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also in support of this. I did reach out offline to Ms. McHale about this as well, and it was really important that it was clarified that there was bike lanes as well for traveling north and south. So that was confirmed that even though it was on one side, that it did accommodate both. And a quick comment, a quick offline suggestion, inquiry to Ms. McHale. I'm sure we would have been able to answer all these questions prior to getting to this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gardner.
Thank you, and Councillor Gilliland is quite correct on that. Thank you for calling me on it. Well, then let's call this what it is. It's a bike path. It's an off-road bike path.
Well,
It's not. It's not a trail.
But it's multi-use.
I don't know, but to call this a trail is just. It's a
You know what, Councillor? I'll bring it up to the region because I think that's the
You do
terminology that the region uses. So I'll let them know that Councillor Gardner disagrees with the
Please.
terminology that they're using and that we need to change it. So
You do that
All
because
right.
it's a misnomer. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other comments or questions? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 816. Wireless upgrades and enhancement. Councillor Kim.
I had a question, but I'll green it.
You'll green it? Second? Councillor Thompson? Go ahead.
Thank you. My apologies for not being able to talk offline, but just a question to Ms. Mackenzie Smith. Last week when I read this, it seemed like a no-brainer, and then as I was reading again yesterday, a question popped up. I know in the library we approved a similar extension of Wi-Fi service, but mainly for the purpose of marketing the library to have passersby be aware that, hey, there was a library here. So other than marketing purposes, I know that there's a brief couple sentences about how it's going to increase the efficiency of staff who are on site at one of our sites. You know, with everyone, I understand not everyone may have internet access, but I believe more and more do. And so even though it's only 20,500 from a relative perspective, I just want to make sure that this is necessary given that most people do have internet access, and I don't think we need to advertise the town in that way. So can you give us the value proposition?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So this is to provide free Wi-Fi at Town Park, and there are a number of people who have limited data plans, and so they would be able to access the Wi-Fi at the park. And there are certain apps that we have, like scavenger hunts and geocaching, that would promote people to come to the park and use the park, as well as it will help with our staff in terms of remote access, and as well as contractors in the park. So it is something that going forward, we're looking at developing a corporate Wi-Fi strategy and looking at creating an outdoor mesh for Wi-Fi that would allow access on our trails, other parks as well, going forward.
Councillor?
Okay, so because I'm not sure what the corporate strategy is there, but so it's beyond just have enabling people to have access to the internet then.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, through our strategic plan, one of the items is to review the corporate Wi-Fi strategy and develop an ongoing strategy.
Councillor?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Gilliland?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. This is one that I wanted to pull as well, although I don't really see the value in moving forward until we actually identify the strategic plan, and I would rather put this as the yellow that we had up earlier and defer this. I'm not so certain that we have all the answers as to the mission moving forward. I don't feel comfortable paying $20,000 for internet data plan so we can use on this spot or a geocaching. I don't know if it's the best use of our money at this time, and I feel that once we go through the IT master plan, perhaps maybe we'll have a different view of how we want to allocate that. I am in favor of putting a lot of internet upgrades and enhancements in a Library Square project. I think it's a little bit different of a strategy. But at Town Park at this time, I just kind of feel like until we actually, again, go through that IT plan, I'd like to put that as yellow. So could I change that?
No, who moved it? Councillor Kim, unless Councillor Kim decided to change it, or we would vote it down.
Or defer?
Yellow, I'm fine, because I was mixed, I'm fine either way, but yellow's good.
And we're deferring it to what? For what?
Until the corporate strategy is clearly out.
Microphone for Councillor Kim, sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Kim.
Well, can we defer till the corporate strategy is more clearly outlined with respect to the Wi-Fi?
That's fine. If that's what you want to change, you moved it, so that's fine. Who seconded that? Councillor Thompson, you okay with that? No? No. So leave it on the floor and let's vote on it? Leave it on the floor and let's vote on it.
That's fine.
Councillor Gilliland, do you have anything else to say?
Thank you. Again, like I was saying, I just kind of feel like I'm not 100% that we're spending the right money where we should on this project within Town Park. I would like to wait and see the corporate plan and wait till that point and see if we can identify where we really want to best spend our time and money on the plan, just based on their corporate structure, like what's that called? The IT strategic plan? I'd rather wait.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Humphreys?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I understand waiting for a corporate IT plan, but this Wi-Fi is really public access, and we need to be with it. We're way behind as far as I'm concerned. The public library's got a great strategy in terms of you're walking by on Yonge Street and all of a sudden you have APL Wi-Fi. It's kind of cool. Oh, let me go there. To me, it's just what we use from a corporate IT perspective to provide that, I don't think is going to make a difference here at all. And that's in terms of my background. I just think we need to do it. The more we do this, the better to help the corporation and get out there. So completely understand where Councillor Gilliland is coming from. You do want to understand the full picture, but in this area of IT, I'm really fine with moving forward.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Gardner?
I think no matter what the corporate strategy is going to be, that Town Park is definitely an area of town that we need to extend this service to. I would say the sooner the better. So I will be in favor of doing this project.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. And while I do agree that, there are projects within the capital program that need to wait till the IT strategic plan, providing wireless access in town buildings has already been part of our ongoing initiatives. To me, I just see this as an expansion of those actions we've taken to date. I think that while there may be some alterations or discussions around the priorities and the direction of that IT strategic plan, to me, this action is going to be there. And so I don't see a need to wait. I think it's just an expansion of our current philosophy with regards to free access to the residents. And so I'm comfortable proceeding based on the fact we're just expanding our existing network.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, second time.
Just basically, quickly on an email response that I got from Ms. Van Leeuwen. On the spot and the scavenger and geocaching projects have already been kind of undertaken, and I'm just wondering if we know the success of that project and whether or not the success of having access to on this spot or these scavenger hunts is going to be improved by subsidizing data to our community.
Ms. McDougall?
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. With regards to the couple projects you've mentioned and initiatives, certainly Wi-Fi access is promoting the ability for people to do it, regardless of their data plans. It certainly will benefit that. But those two are just minor projects that one of our staff suggested that the Wi-Fi is benefiting. In fact, Town Park being one of our busiest event parks, where we host a lot of our community events, population, participation of the public, much like a community center, community facility. Town Park is where a lot of our participants and residents go on a regular basis, whether it is for town events, and in fact there are also outside events, but Farmers Market, for example. There's so many initiatives at that site. Those two projects you've mentioned are minor in I wouldn't say that's tipping the scale as to why this is beneficial. It's certainly one of, but the larger aspect here is that this is a huge park for the town from access and promotion to our community. That's why the support from community services would be for this project.
Councillor?
Thank you. And while I'm just trying to understand exactly what the free Wi-Fi is benefiting and what it's going towards, just basing on the information I got, was Town Park on the spot scavenger hunt geocaching and a NFC tag pilot, which I'm not really quite sure what that is. So I'm just looking at the project and the $20,000, and again, we're subsidizing Wi-Fi based on some apps, and for me, it's just a clarity of understanding: is there that need? Is that really what's keeping the public from coming to Town Park and engaging in our community events, because we don't offer or subsidize data for these specific projects? So is there something more above and beyond, or a greater vision that I don't quite understand or foresee here, specific to Town Park area?
I'll just throw in, maybe if you want to expand on that. We're providing internet access for our residents. It's similar as we provide internet access in the town hall, in the SARC, in the Family Leisure Complex. This is just another. If you through four walls around the town park, you'd say it's just another facility that we're providing, an enhancement for our residents in our community to be able to utilize internet access in that facility, and that's the way I look at it. So unless Ms. McDougall wants to expand on that, I don't think it has to speak to any specific, like, I use this type of app and that's why I need that access. It's just giving access to people to allow them to use that access. Some people might not have a data plan, and maybe some residents need to actually go there and use their iPad and actually hook up to a free internet access. And so we're supplying them with that access to be able to go on there, and that's what I'm looking at. And I think that's what staff are proposing, and I think that's what this is doing. So, Councillor Gilliland?
Ms. McDougall, do you have anything to add
Ms.
to that?
McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, I would compare Town Park, like the mayor has suggested, like it's a facility. Similar to, quick reference to, similar to a library or a community center where you have even if your children are there to play, as a parent you can be there. You could sit in one of the community picnic tables and work away, and it's another opportunity that just provides not necessarily a reason to go there, but it enables more opportunity for our community to engage in that center in a different way. It's just providing a unique source.
Councillor?
And I appreciate the insight, and I appreciate that we're trying to extend to the general public and give them an inviting space. And I think that's what I was trying to get at, and trying to get the information to try and quite understand what specifically was the internet being provided for. And it kind of it makes it a little bit more clear versus outside those apps that I was specified within the email there. And I just kind of felt like, are we really subsidizing for those apps and the geocaching? But it's an overall arching area, and it makes it a little bit more clear. So I appreciate that.
Thank you. Councillor Kim, second.
Thank you. And because I moved this, I'm fine with moving it. This is not one of those items that is do or die for me. I see the value in it. I also see some disvalue to it. I'm not a big proponent of free internet access, whether it's inside the building or outside. So that's my position. I see where the municipalities is responsible for certain services, and there's other areas it's just a nice to have, and things like Starbucks or Tim Hortons, they use the Wi-Fi to get customers in to buy their services or products. I don't see that here, but I do believe in Ms. Van Leeuwen and and all the other staff, they've proved to me over the years that when they say they have a plan, they have a plan that's bigger than just providing free Wi-Fi. So I'm okay with grading it, and go from there.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys, second time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not free.
Oh,
The taxpayers are paying for it.
You know how I hate
It's
that
a
word.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a service that they've already paid for. And to me, it's something that they get with their taxes. So I think it's great. I understand where Councillor Kim's coming from, but to me, it's a benefit for living in the community. You get you get our facilities, you get Wi-Fi, it's informed. I'm excited about having it here. I mean, the Armory is about to open. Can you imagine having access to Wi-Fi to know what's happening at the Armory today while you're going to walk through the park? And then when Library Square shows up, and hey, what's happening? And so to me, it's the right way to go. We need to do it. So thanks.
And I'll throw in, most municipalities are moving towards offering internet access, whether it's in parks and trails.
They are.
And so, I mean, I think that the last thing we would want is to see our residents come to us and say, well, why are we behind the times here? What are we doing? And why are we paying X amount in taxes, and yet other municipalities have this service and we don't? And so I think that we need to, catch up, get ahead, and move forward and provide a service that I think a lot of our residents in today's day and age are asking for and want. So, any other comments or questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Yes. Quick question?
Comment between items. This past item was actually a very good example of how we can reach out to staff and get answers and have additional information at the table. And I think we should be careful when we're sort of, let's say, influencing other members that maybe they shouldn't be asking questions at the council table. This is where we ask questions, whether you've reached out to staff or not. And Councillor Gardner, for some reason, has been, the brunt of that, and I think it's unfair. And I think everyone has an opportunity within the confines of the procedural bylaw to ask questions, whether you reached out to staff or you didn't reach out to staff.
Thank you, Councillor Gallo. I agree. I think everyone, we've said it from the beginning. So yeah, before we move to the next item, everyone's had the ample opportunity to ask those questions. If you are going to ask a new question, I mean, that's fine. Things can pop up. Obviously, you can make comments to things that you've discussed, and if you just want to reiterate something, obviously, of course, if you want to let the public know in this setting what you've discussed, of course. But to not have done your homework, and I know that everyone around this table has done that work. They've reached out, and so I feel comfortable in allowing you some leeway to ask certain questions, because maybe you want to just put it on the record, and that's fine. But obviously, if we're going to drag on and just ask questions just for the sake of asking something and reiterating it, then we want to be as efficient as possible also, and know that, and have the public know that we are doing our work. So I appreciate that, Councillor Gallo, and I agree. It needs to be fair right across the board. Thank you. So next item, 817, Councillor Gilliland, Access Aurora telephone project.
Again, this was one that I want to send as yellow, and it was just really, I had
Did you want to put something?
Yellow.
Move yellow?
Defer.
Defer it?
I would like to defer until the IT corporate, the strategic plan has been.
Defer it to until we deal with the IT strategic plan? Yellow's conditional.
So we need a report back, and of course we report back.
Report back. Okay, so yellow.
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 Yellow. Councillor Humphreys? Yes, second. Okay, Councillor Gilliland.
Just very simple, just based on waiting for that IT corporate strategy plan and making sure we're making all the right decisions. It's not that I think that we shouldn't be going ahead with these projects. I just think they should be used as simply as a placeholder until we determine where these funds are going to be allocated in the best use possible.
Thank you. Councillor Humphreys.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, and not to belabor, but yes, absolutely. Phone strategy, IT strategy is all the same. It's all one incorporated. So looking forward to the overall plan.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen. Ms. Van Loon, how old is the current telephones or telephony system?
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we haven't done any updates while I've been here, so it's at least 13 years old or 14 years old and very, very outdated. Yeah, our call center doesn't have performance metric reporting, dashboarding, things like that. So we've got a number of phone trees that are probably redundant, and so it hasn't been updated at all.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. And that's always been my understanding, and I've heard it from others as well, that it's long overdue. So, I certainly think it's something we need to go forward with. If we want to tie it to the IT strategic plan, that's fine. But from a product perspective, we need to update those phones for sure, or whatever we're going to use. So hopefully it won't be too much longer and we can move forward with this project.
Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you. I agree with Councillor Thompson. It's I do receive some very unhappy phone calls from residents about this system, and I think this needs to go forward no matter what the policy says. No. That's my opinion from what I know, but I perhaps don't know as much as Councillor Humphreys.
That's fine. I agree with you. Councillor Humphreys?
Well, that's not my area of work.
Sure, Mr. Mayor and Councillor Gardner, I absolutely appreciate your comment. I agree 100% that those phones are totally out of date. I used to work there, and those are don't even make those for the last 20 years. But the IT strategy, voice and data is one now. You can't do one without the other. We're going to make another big mistake. In fact, some companies don't have phones anymore, and it works great. I don't have phones where I work. So it's amazing. That's how the technology has changed, and we really need that strategic plan to be incredible. It's got to be versatile, and it has to be seamless. So I don't want us to go through a phone strategy because we weren't getting metrics that we've been looking for the last 9 years, 10 years that I've been here almost. We need to do it right and then have those metrics when the time's right. So it's a full solution we have to look at. It cannot be looked at separately.
No. Thank you. Councillor Gardner?
Thank you, Councillor Humphreys. To Ms. Van Leeuwen, or whoever, when can we expect this to come back to us? The whole picture on everything that we need.
Ms. Van Leeuwen or Mr. CAO?
Sure.
Thank
Through you,
you.
Mr. Chair, it's our intention to bring the IT strategic plan before you look at the operating budget. So probably
Okay, so
Not too long.
it could be a yellow.
Yeah. And that's what we have up is a yellow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I agree. I think it's something that we need to do, but I'm fine with the yellow, and waiting for the IT strategic plan coming because it's not that far off. So, yeah. Comments? Any other? No. Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Let's see if we can get through the rest of them. 818. Councillor Gilliland, City View upgrade. Oh. So you
Yellow?
wanted a yellow
Yep,
until the IT strategic plan?
that's correct.
Someone want to second that? Councillor Humphreys, Councillor Gilliland, you just same as the last one, same comments? Councillor Humphreys, go ahead.
Quick question through Mr. Mayor. I don't know who can answer, but is this system something that can be replaced within the IT? Because it's a very specific.
Did you just come up with this question right now, or is
No,
this something
I
you could
did
have
come-
asked earlier?
I could have asked earlier,
Okay.
100%. I was going to put this with the IT plan, but looking at it again, I just want to ask the question.
All right,
It
I'll
says
allow it
here,
this time, but
licensing,
yeah.
land management, City View workspace version. I don't know if I wonder, is this part of the IT plan or not? I should have asked.
All right,
Yeah.
Ms. Van Leeuwen.
City View is identified in the strategic plan. This was a project on the books, I believe, last year or the year before. So this is just moving to a new platform that would allow our inspectors real-time access
Perfect.
to City View to update inspections and
Good.
things like that. It also includes an online inspection booking, which right now people are having to call in.
Right.
And it's a very manual process. So there are a number of enhancements in this version of City View.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, and it is sort of part of the overall plan. Okay, thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
comfortable. Good. Sorry.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I don't support the yellow. I would rather see it green. Through you to Ms. Van Leeuwen or Mr. Waters. How many years have we been using CityView?
Ms. Van Loen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have been using CityView, I want to say at least 15 years, and we did an upgrade in around 2008 or 2009, where we configured and automated all the workflows and status updates and things like that. But it's there are enhancements in here that would really promote even our customers to go online and check the status of their inspections to determine whether or not it passed or failed. So it's real-time status updating and access to information.
Appreciate it.
Counselor?
And, you know, if you look at the project description, it talks about it being a core piece of software that multiple levels or multiple staff members are using. What they're looking to is upgrade the current version so it has more capability, enhance the services that we provide. I don't see us switching from CityView, so I don't know why we need to conditionally approve this. To me, I'm comfortable giving it a green and moving forward with it, enhancing it, because we're not moving away from CityView.
Thank you, Councilor Thompson. I agree. We're upgrading. We're not changing the program. Yeah, Councilor Humphreys, that was.
Through Mr. Mayor, that was my question. Is this something that we would change with the IT strategic plan? If we're not, then no, I'm for this green. I thought we had to wait for the IT strategic plan to come.
So, Ms. Van Loen?
Sorry, I misunderstood the
Oh, okay,
question.
sorry.
I thought you were asking whether or not CityView was included in the work plan, and it is included in the strategic work plan as updating,
Okay,
improving
that's
the
different.
planning processes, including
Okay.
engineering, integrating with GIS. So
Okay.
it's not, we're not moving away from
Okay,
CityView.
that was,
Yeah.
sorry, thank you.
Sorry for the misunderstanding.
Sorry, through Mr. Mayor, if that's the case, then I'm okay with green. I thought this
You
was something.
second it, so it would depend on the mover.
I have to ask the mover, yeah. Yes,
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
I had
So you
thought the
both
same
want to
thing.
change it to green?
Yeah, because I had thought the same thing,
Okay.
based
we'll
on the
change it to
questions.
green. All right. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. I think we can get. 819, Digital Education Program. Councilor Thompson. Motion?
Sure, I'm going to be on the other side now. I'll put forward yellow here.
You're going to prefer to yellow here. Okay.
Yeah.
Second, Councilor Humphreys.
Specifically, when it comes to the project benefits, it talks about providing management and senior leaders a digital education training program to fully understand and embrace the potential of technology, et cetera, et cetera. Since the IT strategic plan is not fully adopted, I would say we wait on this until the IT plan is, so then we know what the scope of that education, who needs to be educated, because there are all kinds of elements within that IT strategic plan that tie into this education program. So it's just conditional upon the IT plan.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this one? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. All right. 8:23. Councilor Gardner, do you think we can get through these two before lunch? You think so? Okay, perfect. 8:23. Councilor Gardner, Cultural Services Master Plan.
Thank you, and
Would you like to move something?
I'll move it.
Move it. Green. Second. Councilor Kim. Go ahead, Councilor Gardner.
Thank you, and I appreciate Councillor Gallo's comments. Sometimes I ask questions at the table because I know the public wants to know the answer publicly. In this case, I forgot to ask, well, I was hoping to ask Ms. McDougall that this morning, and I didn't have a chance. So the thing with this is, this is based on, we've hired Mr. Phil Rose Donahue to do a new cultural master plan. Is that, so is this not in, could you help me with this, the way this money's going to be spent?
Ms. McDougall, we get an explanation on this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, certainly. We have a report actually coming to council on October 15th to provide council with an update on the cultural master plan, the status of the plan, and the plan being from 2014 to 19. So we're coming to the end of that plan.
Right.
That will provide council with an update on what we've achieved and what we are still working on. The proposal for this year is a request for funds to support what our manager of Library Square, which is Phil Rose Donahoe, is looking to achieve in 2020 as it relates to some of those initiatives within the plan to implement, such as looking at KPI project. We're looking at doing more engagement with our cultural master plan, or sorry, cultural partners. Sorry, did you have a question?
No, that was
Okay.
just partners.
With the cultural partners to look at engaging them through some engagement workshops, so that just in a hosting of those, looking at public sessions as well, looking at workshops where we look to create some opportunities to engage on some of those outstanding initiatives from the cultural master plan, as well as working towards developing the public art plan and policy, which is one of the initiatives. Again, that takes a lot of engagement of the public, and certainly with some expertise from some consultants as it relates to the public art, how we will evaluate, how we will monitor and implement jury public art. So although there's a staff member to initiate those programs, there will be some dollars expected or needed in order to host workshops and also maybe hire on some consultants for expertise. So it's a minor amount this coming 2020 to get us to a point to know what the next projection, the next round will look like.
Thank you.
Councillor?
So the question was, Mr. Rose Donahue's salary is, his part in this process is covered under his contract.
Correct.
This is something that's
Correct.
public facing.
Yes.
Thank you.
We good?
Yep.
Good. Any other comments or questions? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Councillor Gardner, 824, active net scan system. Would you like to move something?
I wouldn't be ready to move anything yet.
Anyone want to move? Councillor Gallo, Green? Thank you. Second, Councillor Humphreys. Councillor Gardner, go ahead.
Thank you. I think I just would like to have a little more comfort about what this is going to accomplish. Through you to Ms. McDougall.
Ms. McDougall, we got a little overview on this one.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the current system well, this actually will cover most of our facilities, SARC and AFLC. Right now at AFLC, the Leisure Complex, we have a different a fob system that is given to our patrons, but it doesn't enable us to achieve any data collection. So a lot of this, the goal of this initiative will help us with that data support. It'll also enable a patron to reload their card, enabling them to go online through the ActiveNet system that we have, and they can key in their number. It'll update their card. So it's an opportunity to, create data opportunity for collection of knowing stats, but as well more accessibility for our patrons as they come and go from our facilities.
Councillor?
Thank you. And before you came here, we had a long discussion about allowing access at the back door for patrons with accessibility issues who wanted to go to the pool. So will we be able to program their fob so that they can just come in?
Ms. McDougall?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I certainly can look into that. I'm not sure if that was the intent of this system, to queue to a door. It's more to access into the entry of the gymnasium or the fitness center, just to more data collection around the fitness components of our facilities, and well as our active fitness classes.
Well, and I think it's very important. We did have a staff member who was doing this out of the goodness of his whatever and did a fabulous job, but it was very labor intensive. So I really like the idea of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you. Through you to Ms. McDougall. This kind of self-serve prepay system, and you talk about improving efficiencies. Will there be any labor savings as a result of this?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, our customer service staff may see some minor, I would say minor savings, but it won't be dollar value that I could probably share with you as far as an offset of this cost. There still will be a necessity of the swipe system, card reader system that the staff will have to facilitate. Any new member, they will have to facilitate a new card. If there is any report out, they will still be responsible to provide report outs. I think if there's any savings, it will be minimal. It won't be a large. If anything, this goes to more about promotion of how are our facilities being used, how efficient are we, what are the hours of operation, monitoring the tracking of coming and going of our patrons so we can get a better idea of maybe that is where some efficiencies can come from, understanding the data better.
Thank you. Councillor Thompson?
So I'm just trying to follow the efficiencies in terms of now that we have a scanning system, we can track it better, but yet when people are paying with tickets, are we not recording what they're doing as well? And so should there not also be that data? One may be a manual process and this be an automated process, but I'm still trying to gather, don't we not have data to evaluate those same efficiencies today?
Ms. McDougall?
Through Mr. Mayor, the current system today is certainly manual. Yeah, I would suggest that there isn't as much of a tracking or capability of understanding the timing of when people come in. There will certainly be a tick box or a connection of patrons that came in, but number-wise, but it doesn't necessarily track the time of day that they came in. So to say that there's an efficiency, yes, but at the same time, we're tracking patrons number by number per day, not necessarily when they arrive in. So I think this demonstrates some efficiency, but again, that wasn't the goal of efficiency. The efficiency part, if anything, comes to the more accessible to the patron, to be able to go online and purchase their own and upgrade their own card versus having to stand at the counter and speak to a staff member. I don't think we can equate it to a savings in staff time, if that's what you're seeking.
And
Thank you. Councillor?
sorry, last question. Will residents, patrons have the opportunity to use either system, the current system or this prepay system?
Councillor, did you not think of these questions ahead of time?
Nope. I didn't have this one identified, but Councillor Gardner tweaked my brain.
Okay. Thank you. I'm asking everyone, so I'll ask you
Yep.
as well. So, Ms. McDougall?
So the intent would be to switch out the system. So we would not be carrying the old system while we carry this one.
Thank you.
So
Councillor?
then my only concern is, having gone through something similar when we brought the AFLC on, is that, there were some senior residents and senior patrons that really struggled with technology and preloading and things like that, and that's why we maintain that wristband system as some of those ideas. And so I do have a concern that not everybody will be able to adapt to this new system.
Thank you, Councillor. Oh, Ms. McDougall, did you want to finish off there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, if I may add, I understand I think I understand what your concern may be, and I don't want to give the impression that the only option to load this card is online. That is one opportunity. So those that have the capability and the interest to do so can do so. There still will be the ability to come to the counter at the customer service desk and have their card loaded with their as similar transaction of administration. They can still do that. The intent of the card as well will be enabling them to swipe in through past a location. That's where the data will be generated from. So I wanted to be clear that it's not moving solely to an online system. They will still be able to interact face-to-face with a customer service agent.
Councillor?
Perfect. So I appreciate that clarification, but because that does make a difference. So the way I interpret that is they can come to the counter and they give their $20, and instead of getting their 6 tickets for whatever, the $20 would essentially be put onto the card. And so the next time they come, instead of tearing off a ticket and giving it, they would just present their card and be good to go.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. Council, I'd just like to deal with pulling the items of the next one before we break for lunch. So if we can move to number 6, which is binder tab 9. And I will go back to my right. Councillor Gilliland.
Excuse me, I don't have any items to pull, but is there any way I can just make a comment? Just based on
That's what we prefer, is comments over questions.
I just want to have a comment into what Councillor Gallo had said earlier, and I was wondering if maybe I could speak to that
You know what, we can,
just quickly.
can we deal with that after lunch?
Sure.
Okay. Did you have anything, you have nothing to pull? Councillor Kim? You're good? Councillor Gardner?
Actually, I intended this for my lunchtime reading. So could you?
Well, you can read it, but is there anything to pull?
No, I don't know yet.
You don't know yet. Councillor Thompson.
9-2.
9-2. Thank you. Councillor Gallo? No?
Oh, sorry, and 9-11.
And 9-11.
Since that's the implementation plan to the IT plan.
That makes sense.
I'll put yellow on the board for that one already.
Okay.
9-2, I pulled.
So far I have pulled is 9-2 and 9-11. Anyone else? Councillor Gardner? Okay, so then what I will do is I won't do the motion then. We'll do it when we come back from lunch, just in case someone has something when we come back. So those are the two items we've pulled so far. So we'll come back. So we'll recess for lunch. We're coming back. How long do we have for lunch? Half hour. So if everyone can be back here, let's 12:45, please, everyone. Thank you. All right, council, we are back. Yes. Councilor Gardner. Did you have anything to pull? For any ones in particular?
For
Just
several.
overall or for several?
But it just be a comment at the end. It doesn't have to
At
be.
the end? Do you want to just do that now at the beginning?
Sure.
Sure, go ahead. Yep.
I would just like to say that I'm actually thrilled to see that we're going to have a climate change adaptation plan, a town-wide green development guidelines, the building condition assessment and energy audit. These are fantastic studies that are really going to help us. And also, I like the idea of a risk management study, the job hazard assessment study. With respect to the emergency response plan update and continuation of operations plan, do we have it through you maybe to that part of the table? Do we have anything in place that provides supplies for residents who potentially may have to use our emergency shelters?
And Councillor, I'm going to allow it, but normally I would ask you to pull it, but
Okay, I can wait.
Are you sure? No,
Sure.
it's fine. That's fine. If that's the only question, that's fine. Otherwise, I'll ask you to pull those items that you have.
No, that's my only question.
Okay, Mr. Downey, did you want to answer that one?
Oh, he
Oh,
wasn't
Ms. Van Leeuwen.
expecting
Yeah,
that.
well, you know what? I saw that you were busy, and I said, let
I
me
was
pull you,
looking
let me
at the
get you off the
wrong-
spot there and see what I can do to
I
get
was
you.
looking at the wrong part of the table.
Ms. Van Leeuwen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just for clarification, are you asking about evacuation centers? So we have entered into a memorandum of understanding with Red Cross, and that if we do create an evacuation center, they will attend and they will bring certain supplies, and other agencies will also attend to provide assistance in those evacuation centers. And we have had, over the last 2 years, we've actually done essential social services exercises. This year it was in the AFLC as it was last year. So we are training staff in case of these types of emergencies where we have to implement an evacuation center.
Thank you. I'm just thinking that in case of perhaps a region-wide emergency, we may not be able to be adequately serviced by the Red Cross. And would it be possible for us to have some basic supplies in place, like water, blankets? I'd like us to think about it, because I don't want to be dependent on an outside agency that may be stressed over their limit.
So, yeah, I think that's something that staff will take into consideration. Yep.
I haven't seen it anywhere in any of, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Gallo, do you want to pull something?
9-5, please.
9-5. Okay. So, okay. So I have 9-2, 9-5, and 9-11. Good? Someone like to move the recommendation and approve the items that have not been pulled for separate discussion? Councillor Gardner, Councillor Kim, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 9-2, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. I'd like to bring out the yellow, and I'd like to explain
Yellow?
why it will be conditional.
Second, Councillor Kim. Go ahead, Councillor Thompson.
Thank you. Through my conversations with Mr. Waters, I understand that it is a requirement for the town of Aurora, our municipality, to come up with a climate change plan, both through the Planning Act as well as the provincial policy statements and so forth. You know, however, at the same time, I look at the cost of this being $200,000, and I think to myself, you got 9 other municipalities in York Region, as well as York Region itself, all of which are all looking to do this same initiative. So essentially, $2 million being spent on consultants to come up with a plan. And I got to think that there's got to be some degree of duplication, and so I'm hoping that there can be some more collaboration, even if it's just with us in the region. I know the region's engaged in this. Let the region come forth and develop their plan. We'll tag onto it and then look at Aurora-specific initiatives. And so the conditional really it would be to wait until the region's done theirs and then tag on to it to develop it. I got to think there's got to be some inherent savings as a result of it, because while some would be specific to Aurora, many of the initiatives around climate change would be similar in municipality to municipality in the region overall. You know, for example, you know, looking at bus fleets and some of those greenhouse emissions and so forth. And so I'd just like to put forward the yellow until the region has done theirs, and then we look at how we can build from there.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Councillor Gardner.
Do we have a timeline through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. CAO, or perhaps to yourself? Do we have a timeline on when the region is going to be doing this?
They actually have their draft report. They just haven't brought it forward. I spoke with them yesterday. Yes. Spoke with the commissioner, and they are in draft mode. It's going to planning, which is going to look at it from a planning perspective, and then it's going to be presented to regional council in the coming months. You're probably about a couple months away from the report being in front of regional council.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor. If it's coming in the next couple months, thank you, Councillor Gardner, because that was my question as well. By us implementing something and putting something in place, I still feel on a ground level, ground community level specific to Aurora, I don't think that there's a reason why we have to put this on hold, because regardless, we're going to use examples from the region, but it is single tier. It will reflect what's different for a single tier town. And I feel like we can get the ball rolling now within the next couple of months. I don't think it's really going to hurt between now and the next couple of months if we were to put this on hold. So I would like to see this approved.
Thank you, Councillor Gilliland. Any other comments or questions? Yeah, well, I was just going to speak the first time. You know, I would be in favor of conditionally approving this and holding off until the region comes back with theirs and regional council, whether they approve it or not. I would think that they would approve moving forward. They might make some minor changes or ask for some changes, but I think that we can utilize what the region approves, and at the end of the day, we can support or endorse that. You know, at the end, climate has no boundaries. What's the effects on climate in Aurora are the same as the effects on climate in Vaughan, in Richmond Hill, in Markham, region as a whole, Toronto. And it's not to say that we don't think that this is needed. This is needed, but there's a way that we can do it collaboratively, as Councillor Thompson mentioned, and we can all work together and have a report. I mean, it's not, what they're going to be doing is not going to be much different from what we're doing. So do we need to reinvent the wheel and do our own consultant and spend a whole $200,000? I spoke with Anka and our new staff member in regards to this. And Anka, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's no issues really if we waited maybe a couple of months. It's something that we can do, and also it might actually reduce some of the costs. We would still go out to a consultant, whether we endorse or support the region's climate action plan. But it would allow us to refine that plan if we support it, and it would save us on some of the costs.
That's correct. We still need to do it. We will need to do something made in Aurora for climate change, but we can wait until the region issues and approves their own, and we build on the regional adaptation plan. We can do that.
Thank you. Councillor Gallo for the first time.
My question was answered. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Thompson, second.
Thank you. And that's really my main point. You know, I certainly, as I stated, you know, there is a requirement for us to do it. Yes, you know, it needs to entail specific components that are specific to our issues in Aurora. I just think that there's a possibility of saving some of the money and not having to spend the full $200K if we're able to wait until the region's done and take a look at it and go from there. Really, so more from a cost savings perspective.
Thank you. Councillor Gilliland, go ahead.
Thank you. And while I don't disagree, I hope that we can have some savings moving forward, similar to the project with the sidewalks and eliminating that from the budget. It's just more or less understanding the green, yellow, red. I'm looking at it, yes, we're going forward with this project, and I want to say we're going forward with this project, but it means that we're going to be saving some money in the next couple of months. I totally would be in favor of that, and I just wonder, is that next couple of months going to make a real difference in whether we approve this today or put it as a conditional? Since I think originally we were kind of presented with either a green approve or deferred. I would just like to be able to have this seen as a project that we would like to approve. So maybe it's to change the language of, you know, it's approved moving forward.
Councillor,
After waiting for the
Yeah.
region. That's what I'm kind of trying to understand here.
And I would suggest that if we're saying conditional, so we are approving it conditional upon receiving the regional report and then deciding how we're going to move forward after that. If we were deferring, then I would kind of understand your concerns, saying that we're not necessarily thinking about moving forward, but conditional means we're moving forward upon that report and what the region does and what they present to us.
Okay, I just wanted to have that clear since originally we decided to remove that part with the exception of the IT master plan that we were talking about. So I was surprised to see this back up. And I was just a little confused as to why we're utilizing this structure again.
Okay.
So,
Thank you. Thank you. And just to let everyone know, I'm going to take this opportunity. I have begun to have some conversations with the mayors and the other municipalities to see if there's ways that we can collaborate with them on this plan, and maybe there's something that we can do collaboratively and save some costs as well in that regard. So since we all have to do it, maybe there's something that we can do together. So I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 9.5, Townwide Green Development Guidelines. Councillor Gallo. Do you want to move something?
Green, please.
Green, thank you. Second, Councillor Kim. Go ahead, Councillor Gallo. The floor is yours.
Just a quick question to Mr. Waters regarding the official plan review and how this links into that and whether one should be ahead of the other, or where we're progressing with that and where this fits into that.
Mr. Waters?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a long-standing policy in our official plan to undertake to complete a green development guidelines, and so it hasn't been undertaken for whatever reason. There's bits and pieces of it that exist in terms of some background research that's been done internally. So it really won't have an impact on the official plan review. What the official plan review will do is maybe update some of the policy or the language around green development standards, but it's a requirement that the town needs to undertake. In terms of our official plan review, that's moving forward. We hope to be in front of you in November with a meeting to kick off the official plan review, but this work needs to be done notwithstanding that.
Thank you.
Councillor? Thank you. Seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. 9.11. Councillor Thompson, Information Technology Strategic Plan Implementation. I'm guessing I know what you're going to say on this one. Would you like to
I'll
move
put
yellow?
forward yellow, since this is really funding to implement the strategic plan, which is yet to be approved.
Yeah. Second, Councillor Gilliland. Any other comments or questions? Or
I think it's self-explanatory.
anyone else? Call the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? That carries. And you know what? That's it for items. So, Council, before I ask for adjournment, I did actually just want to say what a great process. This worked out much better. I think staff did a tremendous job. I think there was a lot of improvements over last year, and also I want to commend not only staff but also council. We said that we need to be more efficient, and that's what we've done. And you've gone out, you've asked your questions, but yet you still stated what you needed to state so the public has an understanding of where you're coming from and what's important. So I commend each and every one of you for being efficient and doing the job of the residents here at Town Hall. So thank you. And with that being said, offline? All right. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn. Councillor Thompson, Councillor Gilliland, all those in favor? Opposed? That carries. We are adjourned.